Any second? Whoops. Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach held Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m. We have a roll call. Councilmember Posterly.
Here.
Councilmember Lester. Here. Councilmember McGinnis.
Present.
Vice President Treston.
Here.
President Bendo.
Present.
Let the record indicate the presence of Acting City Manager Ron Walsh and Acting Corporation Counsel Charles Geiger. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
Councilwoman Posterly, would you please lead us? Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first meeting of April. Hope everyone's enjoying the good weather, and let's get the show on the road, and we'll start with the city manager report.
Good evening, everyone. You hear me all right? Yeah. Good, okay. So the first thing I want to do for our city manager's report is announce the hiring of a deputy city manager. Our new deputy city manager is actually in the audience here tonight. Cindy, would you raise your hand and say hello to everybody? It's Miss Cindy Rogers. Let's join in welcoming her aboard. Cindy is a long time, I should say, government, has a lot of government experience in municipal government. She's worked in Washington, D.C. for many, in her career for many years, 12 or 13 years, Cindy, right? She was in the county for a while in the Planning Commission. She was a deputy mayor for the city of Glen Cove for a while. She was also a representative, the district manager, I guess you would call him, for a member of Congress for a long time. So she has a very extensive background. She's also a lawyer by a trade as well, and we're very excited to welcome Cindy into the city. So I want to start off my city manager's report tonight to give a brief update on some of the things that we've had happen with regard to the Empire Wind project. We've had numerous meetings. I've personally had several meetings and many conversations and phone calls with the actual company, Equinor, trying to get them a level of understanding as to our expectations with regard to them being engaged in our community and providing information. But there's something even more important than that. I want to give an understanding to the public as to the process that's actually taken place and where we actually are. So how did wind wind up being in front of us? There's this idea out in the public that this is new. This isn't new. This started in 2016 when the United States government, the federal government, started selling land leases off the coast of the United States for wind farms. Equinor purchased 88,000 acres off of Long Island, off of the South Shore of Long Island, purchased the land lease for that property. They have the right now to put out wind turbines between 15 and 30 miles off the coast. So how does that actually take place? They can't just say, okay, you can't just put up a wind turbine. Someone has to buy the energy. New York State, a thing called NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Research Development Authority, they actually purchased the energy that Equinor will produce from the wind farm. So it's a state agency that bought this. They will then in turn sell it to the grid and eventually it gets to your house. As part of this process, you can't just build any turbine that you want. These acronyms get me crazy. It's BOEM, which is the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, is a federal agency. They basically tell what type of turbines can go out there and how they can attach to the ocean floor, and they approve the plan. That process is well underway as well with the federal government. Then you have the process of the energy transmission lines. So the energy transmission lines are really the Article 7 process, which is the Public Service Commission. It's how the power gets from the turbines into the grid. That's the Article 7 process. That's where people can register. Any one of you in the audience here who lives in New York State can register as an interested party so that you can be part of those conversations. And that's where the negotiations take place with regard to how those transmissions lines are actually approved. It's a negotiation process. So if anybody thinks that there's not going to be wind turbines off of our shores, that's not the issue here. Long Beach has a unique position in that we actually have the ability to give certain permissions or not give certain permissions to go underneath our beach, providing that the state gives us what's called alienation, which I've explained for a couple of meetings. So we have that, and we also have them going through our, the proposed route is going through our streets, all part of the Article 7 process. There has been a tremendous amount of filings with regard to environmental impacts by Equinor, and a lot of many requirements. We have links to a lot of this stuff on our homepage. That's been up. We also put out wind@longbeachny.org. Is you can send us emails for information that you'd like us either to have or you'd like us to possibly even try to address in a meeting. We do read those emails. We've started to receive them as well. So I just didn't want people to think that this is new, or this is something that's sprung up. It's new to us because the proposed route is being proposed to come through Long Beach. And that's where Long Beach government officials and the Long Beach administration is involved in that process. We're also inviting in the Citizens Campaign for the Environment towards the end of April. The date hasn't exactly been set yet, but they're an independent organization that looks out for the concerns of the environment, and they're going to be giving presentations with independent experts on your EMF, which is your electromagnetic field concerns, as well as marine life and the environment and wind turbines and everything to do with wind and wind farm, especially oceanic or coastal wind farm type of projects. So we've invited them in. We've also invited in NYSERDA, who has been a little bit more, they've agreed to actually come here. We're still trying to lock in dates with them to talk about their process and the things that they have gone through. But if you go onto the NYSERDA site, there is a tremendous amount of information there as well. A lot of what NYSERDA did when they signed the contract are the things that we're seeing now, like the monies that are being offered and things like that, are really not negotiable for, like, there's a thing in the paper lately about $15 million, $7.5 million for Long Beach and $7.5 million for Island Park. That money is defined in a contract signed by NYSERDA and Equinor. It's not something that the city of Long Beach can say, we want more money for that. There's plenty of opportunity for that during the negotiation process, as well as if we grant them the right to go underneath the parkland alienation or to use some the rest of our properties. That's really the way this is. So if your goal is to, or if anybody has the goal of stopping wind, that was probably in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. Those were the years where those things were discussed. The BOEM process of what types of wind farm can go off of our coast, public comment for that closed over a year ago. So this is just about the transmission lines for the city of Long Beach and whether or not it goes through here, notwithstanding the fact that the public deserves to get a lot more information than they've been getting, and we're committed to actually making sure that we do our part in getting information, as well as ensuring that our meetings are set up here for our public to come in and be educated on the project and the process. Last week, as I like to do also with my city manager reports, is try to touch base on what people were asking questions about last week. We had several questions from at least 2 individuals concerning overtime in the fire department. Again, I want to ensure people that that is not a topic that we are taking lightly here. We are meeting on it. We're devising our own approaches and plans to it. It's nothing that I can really talk about in public because a lot of it involves negotiations with the fire department, as well as other steps that we're trying to work through to see what we can do about ensuring that the city of Long Beach's finances are secure and we are on the right path going forward. Crystal Lake actually asked about the critical infrastructure project and to also have a presentation on that. Crystal, the next council meeting, that presentation will actually be starting with the actual contractor and planning process, and presentation will be given for that, okay? Tonight, we have two presentations. I'll turn it over to Joe Fabrizio in a moment, but before I do that, Joe, I got to compliment and thank Denise Ford. Denise, are you in the audience? You are? Raise your, thank you, thank you. Everybody knows Denise here. If you don't know Denise, I guess you don't know anything about Long Beach. Denise and I actually went to meet the county executive last week. No, was it Monday? No, it was last week. Last week, and these are bleeding together with me in such a strange way. Anyway, we went to meet the county executive because everybody knows about the N69 bus route that we have here in Long Beach that goes to Point Lookout. And that's been running at a deficit here, and we've been asking for additional money for that route in the city of Long Beach since 2008. We've been trying to get the county to increase the amount of money that they supplement that route with, because primarily the people who are serviced by that are county residents, not Long Beach residents. We asked the county executive to make up the difference of our loss, which is $75,000 a year, and without hesitation, the county executive said, absolutely, we'll find the money, and committed to that. So I want to thank Denise, and I want to thank our county executive. Just another step of us trying to close and take some of the burden off of the taxpayers. That's every little bit matters here. So with that, Joe, if you want to come up and introduce the two projects that you're going to present tonight.
Hello.
Joe, you want to introduce the projects first?
Yeah, one.
Thanks.
Okay, sorry. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Fabrizio. I'm the Commissioner of Public Works for Long Beach. I'm delighted to introduce Steve Normandin from NV5 Consulting Engineers to give you an overview of the city's Phase 1 Resilient Connectivity Project for Park Avenue. The city received a $1 million grant from the New York State Department of State to enhance vehicular and pedestrian safety by bringing Park Avenue between Long Beach Road and Grand into compliance with the manual on uniform traffic devices. As part of the project, we're going to be upgrading / replacing all road markings such as lane markings, crosswalks, turning arrows, and stop lines. We're going to be installing solar variable message signs, enhancing all signage, and speed limit signs and ADA signs. I'm now going to turn it over to Steve. He's just going to give a quick overview of this, and then what he's going to do is he's going to retire to the OEM room where the public is can engage him on any questions they may have. Of course, I'm available to answer any questions, and the council can ask questions as well.
So the only thing that I want the public to understand about that is the presentation will happen, the council will ask questions, you'll all be entitled to come up and ask 3 minutes worth of questions. Yes, we're allowing that tonight. If that actually, no? You don't want to do that? Okay, so if you have questions, in any case, and you don't want to leave this meeting and go into the other room, you will have the opportunity to email us. We'll get back to you on any sort of information that you actually would like to have answered. So don't feel that you have to run out of the room and miss something that's happening here if you don't want to, but this is sort of an added level of transparency for people to actually get their questions answered.
And before I turn it over to Steve, I just wanted to thank Patty Bourne. She's our Director of Economic Development. She's really put a lot of time and energy into this. And I think the Department of State, they may be here, Sally Kellogg and Fred Anders. We want to thank them as well because they really collaborated with us and got us to this point. So thank you. Steve?
Thanks, Joe. Okay, as Joe had mentioned, the project on Park Avenue, resilient connectivity for Park Avenue, Phase 1. So as Joe had mentioned, basically we're focused on Park Avenue, the roadway itself, in terms of its signage and its pavement markings, striping, basically a traffic safety project. It runs from Grand Boulevard to Long Beach Boulevard, a distance of approximately 1.4 miles. So just as you all know, the general conditions, just an aerial shot of one location in Lindell. Basically, if you're looking at this, you're looking at the worn pavement markings, the lane lines, the crosswalks are almost non-existent, and the old style. So what we're looking to do is upgrade the pavement markings in addition to the signage. Again, here's a pedestrian walking in a crosswalk, hard to see, but the lane lines have vanished over the time. A lot of volumes, a lot of traffic volumes, a lot of wear and tear, as you know, on Park Avenue. Again, just another example at Laurelton. Again, the crosswalks and the double yellow lines and the stop bars have ended their useful life. And then in terms of the signage, lots of signage throughout, a lot of no parking, various ages over the years, been put up on a need-based. So on the left-hand side, have a rusted, post. You have a general parking signage. Doesn't meet the current standards. The truck route sign and the no turn on red. These are signs, whether you know it or not, are not meeting the current standards in terms of its format, its mounting, its posts, its heights, and general reflectivity. Most important, the signage requires a high-end reflectivity, which will really be enhanced by this project over this entire corridor. This project is being coordinated with the city's ongoing initiative, which is, if you haven't noticed, all of the boulevard signs are starting to turn over to a more decorative look. The blue sign with the new city logo, that is being installed on the boulevards at this point. After that is done, the city will come back, and you can see just the green sign, Park Avenue sign below that, those will be all changed out after the boulevard signs are done, so the Park Avenue signs will get that same treatment. So that is what the city is doing ongoing, and this project will complete it by replacing all of the other traffic signs along the corridor. For example, like I said, the no turn on red now has the red ball, and then the reflectivity. The hurricane evacuation route signs have a need for proper placement along the corridor. Handicap signage, the no truck sign, very important on the west end, and the school crossing signs will now meet the new code, which is the yellow-green reflectivity and proper sizing. Other improvements along the corridor. Just wanted to just make the point that this project has been coordinated with the city police department. They were very involved as a stakeholder, multiple meetings. Went through the corridor itself with them. They made many suggestions, and that's what's incorporated in this corridor. So not just replace the existing signs, but add new ones where they're needed. And in this particular case, we're going to have a driver feedback sign. That's your speed is type of sign. It's got a bunch of names to it, but basically it's going to enforce the speed limit in this case on Park Avenue, and tell the driver what their speed is so they can realize that they need to slow down. In the center is a variable message sign. Those are the signs that give you that message with LED sign lighting. So with these, have you noticed the city PD has been running around with the trailer and bringing that sign where needed and setting that up on a case-by-case basis. This project will have 3 permanent signs, so it would take strategically placed along the corridor and alleviate that need for the temporary ones. And then on the right-hand side, a part of this project is to really give a wayfinding, a brand to the city facilities. So all of the PD signs and the pool signs and the hockey rink signs, those will all be replaced with a new standard, and that is the white background, the new city logo, and the directional wayfinding. And it really will give it that character and that wayfinding and branding to all the city facilities. That will be only for any existing city or facility, in addition to wayfinding to the beach, and as you come out of the train station, access, beach access for anyone visiting from out of town. This is just one of our construction plans, and what this is just showing is all the striping, the pavement markings, the skip lines, the crosswalks, the stop bars will all be cleaned, refreshed, and repainted. The crosswalks itself, as you notice, this is a high visibility crosswalk. Out there now is a mix and match of the high vis and just plain ladder lines. So every single intersection will have the high visibility crosswalks. Pedestrian safety is the utmost important in the city, and this will certainly enhance that. At this particular location, if you can read, this is Grand Boulevard. At the west end here, the truck route deviates, goes down Grand Boulevard. So the PD really made a point of enhancing that signage and advanced signage so that the trucks don't mistakenly continue down on Park Avenue to the west end. Additional, this is an advance of that. We have a variable message sign at Lindell, which will, again, allow for a message that is for an event, for safety purposes, any message that the PD would put out there. In this particular case, they can put on the sign for the truck route to enhance where that the trucks are supposed to make that turn at Grand Boulevard. Again, just another shot. This is by Edwards Boulevard. You can see we have the beach access signs, the new wayfinding signage starting at the train station on the top part of the screen here. But basically, what you're seeing gives you an appreciation of how many signs are actually out there when you see them all together. And here's the last intersection at Long Beach Boulevard. We will have a variable message sign right where the clock was to give the message right, as you enter the city, from Long Beach Boulevard heading southbound. So in summary, we're looking to get these drawings out and bid this month, which would mean a construction start would be in June, and we need to be complete by the end of the summer in August. The funding, again, is 50% provided by the state of New York, and the city will match that as well with their share of 50%. And as Joe had mentioned, it's a maximum of $1 million. We're looking to maximize that to get the 50-50 share here. But that is the project in a nutshell. Thank you for your time.
And folks, for the folks at home, a PDF of this of all the slides is available on the agenda page under the City Council page on the website.
Joe, next project?
Is this part of the?
I just asked him if he wanted to. So.
Yeah, I think they have to introduce the public hearing first
From the council.
or ask questions.
There's a couple of questions that they want to ask from the council. So. Okay. Is it on? Doesn't work?
Roy, that mic doesn't work.
That's our show mic.
When you're ready. He's putting his stuff away. Yeah, I'm trying to. No, I'm trying to ask a question.
Yes.
Okay, looking at this, I assume most of the cost has to do with the signs. Can you break it down approximately what percentage is the signs? And
Yeah, the signs are the big deal, and this also includes the removal of the signs, most of which are in the concrete sidewalk. So that requires us to patch and repair and install the signs, and and the brackets and all of the, and actual the removals, some of these are, on poles and things. But basically, I think we're looking at a third of the job is the striping and two-thirds is the signage.
And Joe, maybe you know, how long has it been since this has been striped?
There's been no comprehensive striping or plan in my tenure, and that's a long time.
That's a long time. So are we going to have some sort of plan to restripe it?
Well, that's what this is. This is going to bring the
So-
entire roadway between Park Avenue between Long Beach Road and Grand in compliance with, current codes and standards.
I understand that, but is there a plan, let's say, 5 years from now, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years? I mean, is there any type of plan, or are we just going to let it deteriorate again and then do it?
Currently, there's no long-term plan to restripe this area at this time.
Okay, how about the rest of the city? I assume that we have problems in other places in the city where,
Yeah, we have a very able traffic department that does do striping throughout the city, but Park Avenue obviously is a comprehensive job, and it needs it really bad, and that's what this money is for. And I did want to mention one other thing too. There is a Phase 2 component to this. It's called the Phase 2 Resilient Connectivity that we didn't mention, and that's going to involve starting at Long Beach Road, working to the west, replacing curbs, sidewalks, putting in ornamental decorative streetlights. So Phase 2 is really what you're going to also see. And that's going to be probably next spring. We're going to be working on that. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
is that the 4.5 million?
No, that's totally different.
Okay.
This is
what's Phase 2 going to cost?
Phase 2, I believe, was it was 1.275 million for Phase 2.
And do we get 50% of that?
We have it in the capital budget.
We what?
The city's 50% is allocated in the capital budget for
Right.
Phase 1
So
and Phase 2.
it's a 50-50 again.
It is 50/50.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's budgeted for, correct.
And I guess my last question, why do we need signs indicating which way the beach is?
They call it interpretive signage. It's,
Is it required? Required that we have to tell people where the beach is?
It's also our suggested routes, Roy, so that people aren't cutting down the more narrow streets. They're cutting down the streets that we want to direct traffic to go down to the down.
But this is beach access, and beach access is on every block in this city.
Not on the boardwalk. So
What?
we get to choose where the signs go, and we get to start to direct traffic in the patterns that we would like to see traffic to be directed.
I mean, they can honestly, they could be. I mean, if the council would like them eliminated, they could be eliminated.
Well, I just don't see the sense of it, considering the cost of the, we're talking about $1 million project, and, if there's,
And there's only two. Steve just mentioned that there's only two, but I mean, we could certainly, it's not final. We could certainly take those two signs out if you'd like. No problem.
no, I didn't understand it.
Yes,
Councilman, if I could just mention, Councilman Lester, at one point, we did a greeting program at the train station in the summer on Saturdays and Sundays, and for newcomers who had never been to Long Beach and came by train from Brooklyn, Manhattan, wherever, they really didn't know which direction. We had physically people there. We don't do that. We save the money. We don't have people there to show them, but a sign would help people orient themselves and feel more comfortable, so that's why we suggested having it. For most regulars, of course, they know where the beach
I
is.
understand at the train station. I don't understand at every street.
I know I can't see you very well, but, so this plan, what you have in front of us, for example, will we get to see like a plan of the exact signage,
This is the signage. It's just where they're going to be put it. And if you look at the
So we
the
can-
breakout of the pictures,
This would it'd
there's
be
actually a detail of where the
exactly
signs are going.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so, like, the driver feedback signs, how many of those?
We currently have one, and that's going westbound by the library, that block. It's tough to squeeze in driver feedback, because as you know, the blocks are about 500 feet apart and traffic lights on either side. Usually you put that in a free flow condition, so that's where the highest speeds would happen. But basically, there was some concern around the crossing and the speeds in the vicinity of the library.
Yes. As a matter of fact, just this week, I had two people talking to me about that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Move on to the next.
Okay, on to the public hearings. Our first public hearing is for an ordinance amending,
No.
What?
We have this.
yeah, isn't that part of the bond?
Yeah, he has one more
It's
presentation.
part of the bond.
No, Long Beach Consolidation Project.
One more
sorry.
for the
Let's go.
public hearing.
Part of the city manager report.
Part of the city manager report.
Okay.
Dave, are you going to introduce it, or do you have to introduce it, or should I
You could
go?
do it. This-
I could go? Okay.
Is this a sewer consolidation that you're doing right now?
That's correct.
So you're just going to present it now, and then when the bond ordinance come up, it's sort of separate and apart from this? This is the presentation of the actual
Yeah, this is the public hearing for the
public,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's part of the public hearing, that's why I was announcing that.
Okay, so announce the public hearing now.
So as I was saying, this is public hearing for an ordinance amending and restating bond ordinance adopted May 17, 2023, in the amount of $165,759,695.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Joe Fabrizio back again from Public Works. On May 17, 2022, the City Council approved the bond ordinance authorizing financing in the amount of $123,095,799 for the Long Beach Water Pollution Control Plant Consolidation Project. The four components to this project, just so everyone's aware, is one, we're going to convert the existing wastewater treatment plant to a pump station. Two, we're going to be building a 19,000 linear foot force main under Reynolds Channel connecting our wastewater treatment plant to the South Shore Reclamation Facility in Bay Park. Three, we're going to be hardening all the satellite pump stations, ones at Roosevelt, ones at New York Avenue, ones at Indiana Avenue, so they're going to be not subject to flooding. And four, we're going to actually decommission all the ancillary buildings at the wastewater treatment plant, which is going to open up approximately 4 acres of waterfront property on the waterfront. Unfortunately, the estimate for the project has increased substantially because of several issues, including volatility in markets, high inflation, and supply chain issues. The new estimated value is $165,759,695, which is an overall increase of $42,663,896. This resolution amends. This resolution amends the original, increases the financing to $165,759,695. The exercise is required because we're obtaining a low-interest loan from the Environmental Facilities Corporation for the project. The EFC requires that the loan applicant, which in this case is the city, authorize a bond ordinance for the full value, estimated value of the project. Excuse me. Just one other point, one might ask, why is the city responsible for providing the working capital for this project? The reason is that in the FEMA world, the owner of the facility where the damage occurred is the receiver of grant funds under the FEMA 406 mitigation program and is responsible to sign off on the project worksheet for the project. At this point, I just want to introduce Eric Mills from Nassau County. He's going to give a little more detailed overview of the project in general and the financing. We also have Jeff Storch, who represents the city's bond counsel, who is here. We also have, I just want to say, Jane Hudak from Nassau County. She's the county attorney who's been working with us on this for a very, very long time. And actually, of course, Legislator Ford, who's been instrumental in getting this project going, and of course, our city council, who's also, thank you very much for getting this to the finish line. If this passes, we're likely to see construction start in a couple of months, I believe, if everything goes well. So without further ado, I just want to introduce Eric Mills from, he represents the Nassau County's consulting firm, Hayes and Sawyer Arcadis. Here you go. One other really important point that Eric just pointed out is this project is 100% reimbursable under the FEMA 406 hazard mitigation program. So with the city, we have to put up the working capital, but even the interest on the loan is going to be covered as part of this program. So again, I think that's an important part that I. Can you repeat that again? That I did, yes. It is 100% reimbursable under the FEMA 406 hazard mitigation program, actually as long as you stay within the scope of work, and the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery. So now I'll turn it over to Eric. Thank you.
thought that was important. So I'm Eric Mills with the Hazen Arcadis joint venture that is the consultant who's doing the program management and the detailed design for this project for Nassau County. So as Joe pointed out, it's the city's vehicle through FEMA that is funding this, but the county's executing the work. So that's really the way this is working and why the county is the one who's executing it. And the county takes over this project in the end. Okay, sorry. It's hard for me to hear myself. All right, so just going to give a quick overview of the project for people maybe weren't here last year or not as familiar with it, but also, and then give a summary of the difference in cost from the initial estimate that was done in May of 2022 that this paperwork was based on, and then how it's updated since then. As we're talking about, this is a partnership between the county and the city of Long Beach, and so the goal is to be taking the very vulnerable and kind of old water pollution control plant, the sewage treatment plant here, to be decommissioning that, and so to be turning the influent pump station there, where all the wastewater that gets received and then pumped to go through the treatment system. Instead, that's going to be turned into a more high-powered pump station that is going to send everything through a new pipeline, a force main as we call it, that's going to be going to the South Shore Water Reclamation Facility. Some of you might be more familiar with it as it used to be called the Bay Park Sewage Treatment Plant. Name change has happened. It's going to be a 24-inch pipe that is going to be every single bit of sanitary flow that's coming through the collection system in the city of Long Beach will end up going to South Shore. And some of you might know about the Bay Park Conveyance Project, which is a bigger one where that ultimately is going to be diverting most of the flow and all the dry weather flow to the ocean outfall over at Wantagh and Cedar Creek. So this is all in service of getting rid of these point source nitrogen pollution sources from both the Long Beach plant that goes into Reynolds Channel and right off of, you see that middle orange dot there, that it's small text for people, but that's the South Black Banks Hassock. Off of there is where the outfall from the South Shore plant is. So you're not going to have nearly as much effluent going in there, and it'll really be contributing to reviving the health of the area here in Reynolds Channel and in the Bay. So as Joe was noting, that it's there's one section, and sorry, I don't really have a pointer here, and I never figured out how to do it on here, but where there's the buildings there showing 48-inch gravity influent, the sort of white line going in there, sort of bottom left. That's the building where the existing pump station is. So around there is where that is going to be, everything that's at grade is going to be demolished. There's going to have to be a temporary pump station put in there to keep the facility going while this construction is going on. But it's really going to be a brand new pump station with new emergency backup power, new pumps, and an equalization tank that's sort of required to even out the flow and keep things moving on a constant basis through the pipeline so it doesn't get filled up with sediment and stuff. So that's one of the contracts that Joe is referring to for the pump station conversion. And then for the force main, it's really going to be starting, if everyone's familiar with the boat launch that's very near to here. That's going to be starting at that section where it's going to be, for the most part, it's called HDD, horizontal direct drilling. That's going to do it in 3 different legs, sort of hopscotching across the islands there, and ultimately continuing just with standard cut and cover methods into the South Shore facility. So as part of the permitting process, this project is also going to be restoring all the damage that is going to be done by having heavy construction on these islands, these low-lying islands in the first place, where there's going to be some of that HDD work. But it's also to do restoration for a further 100% of that affected area. So sort of double the affected area is going to have restoration with monitoring and upkeep for 5 years after this is done. So It's to help restore the area, and a lot of it is restoring a lot of damage that was actually done 50 years ago when they first installed the pipeline from Bay Park, where they just dredged. If anybody's ever been on the North Shore, you can just see exactly what happened 50 years ago, where they just carved out a big trench and just buried the pipe, put it back over. You can see there's still barely any vegetation on some of those parts. There's no trees. So it's trying to restore back to that existing condition, the pre-existing condition. So all of this is in support of greater health in the bay, help a lot of the habitats grow back, because the excess nitrogen from this effluent water really inhibits the growth of marsh grasses and some of the other vegetation that holds a lot of the shoreline and the islands, the Hassock Islands, together. So as Joe mentioned, there's also some collection system pump stations. This is common through especially very flat areas like this, that you can't flow all the wastewater to the treatment plant via gravity. You have a number of pump stations where it will flow by gravity to them, and then it gets pumped further along and eventually makes it there. So that has to stay, and those are going to be have some mitigative work done to them to have submersible pumps. You raise as much electrical as you can above the flood zone. Have flood barriers where it's feasible, and just beef them up so that if there's another Sandy kind of event, that they should be able to just withstand that. And as soon as there's not 6 feet of water out in the street, they'd be able to just fire up again and get going. So what we have here is just sort of a summary of what the differences were. So overall, one of the biggest components of difference was for the force main itself. It's very specialized work, and it turns out there just really were only a couple bidders who were going to be able to pull this type of work off. The drills are very long, and there's only so many outfits that can do that. And one of the bidders had an error with his paperwork and dropped out at the last minute. But so there was definitely a higher price in that. It also reflected a lot of the volatility in the supply chain, especially with the piping. We even look back at their number and until they get going and we see their full schedule with the pricing in it, I think they just put a lot of money in there for risk. But they're a very responsible contractor. We have every confidence they can do it. And when we're talking about what was the original estimated amount from May of last year of 108 million, ended up being 147. So there was a couple other elements along there where for the satellite pump station work, the original number only had the construction value in there, but with FEMA and GOSER, we worked this out that all of the design, construction management costs, all of that can be incorporated. So there's sort of a similar difference with the plant-wide decommissioning work. There was a previous effort that was undertaken by the county, as it's saying here, the Austin Force Main design. There was first an overland route that was attempting to do that in conjunction with a lot of DOT work that was going on Austin Boulevard. Turns out that there was restrictions with mixing and matching state and federal funding work going on in the same location, so that had to be abandoned. But the county's still able to get reimbursed from that through FEMA, and so that's been included as well. And there's just the city's bond counsel and legal fees included. So the grand total in the change is that $42,660,896. I kind of spoke to a lot of these ones already. But yeah, we actually did below the engineer's estimate on the pump station one. There was a lot of competition for that. I think there was 7 bids. And then the one with only one responsive bidder, that's the one that was about $15 million higher. Also, in the original estimates, the 10% contingency that the county takes on with every construction contract was not considered. And as well as I was talking about the design, CM, some of these aspects for the satellite pump station work, the decommissioning, and those are all these different elements. But the lion's share is based on the construction. But before, in May, that was just an estimate. And we all know there's been big inflation, supply chain issues, and a year goes by, there's a lot of change. But the important thing to note is that this is all still covered under the FEMA and GOSER aspect, because there's no cap to the grants with these, it's only affected by scope. So as long as we don't change what the project is, then it's still all going to be covered by the federal government and the state government program.
So if there's any questions from the council or from the public, we welcome them. We also, again, have Jeff Storch here from our bond council to answer any financial questions, and of course, our controller, Ms. Resnick, is here as well to assist. Thank you. Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, Jeff's going to say a few words from bond council. He's just going to explain a little bit about the EFC loan process, which I think would be helpful for everyone involved.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the EFC structure as opposed to a normal bonding structure. So if the city had gone out and done this as a standard standalone project for, let's just say, $150 million, they would have to go out and borrow $150 million, and you'd be paying interest as you pull down that money from your coffers, I guess. The way EFC works is a lot better. They issue the $150 million and give you access to it. So you are not paying interest on any money until you actually take the money out of this so-called pot. So the idea of the way the project works is that as soon as we take some money for construction, we, at the same time, through our project manager and the county, immediately apply for reimbursement. So the goal is that while we're pulling down the money, let's just throwing out a number, but just say we take $10 million down to pay for costs. Immediately, we're sending those same receipts to GOSER or FEMA to hopefully reimburse us back. So there's really, hopefully, GOSER has assured us that they're pretty quick. FEMA, we don't know yet, but that we could hopefully immediately get that money back from them, and that money will actually go back up to EFC and pay off our sort of $10 million loan. So it's a little different, hopefully keeps the interest costs down. I kind of think it's important that the way EFC, we're borrowing $160 million, we have access to $160 million. At the time, we will never have that much outstanding that you'll be paying interest on. That's the goal of the project. And again, as Eric said, we've been assured from GOSER and FEMA that they're not capping the project. They're paying 90 and 10% of the project. So, the increase is not being affected by them. They're still fully aware. And then one final question, just on the fact that the City Council adopted a resolution before we bid. That is a standard operating procedure for EFC. They require us at the city to go out and authorize a resolution before going out to final bid. So that's why we kind of have to do it that way rather than wait. So.
Councilwoman McGinnis?
So you're saying the faster we collect and submit our paperwork, the faster we get reimbursed?
Yeah, correct. But we anticipate that. So we can't, the city, I keep saying we, the city can't draw down money until they provide a receipt. So at the same time, that's the way EFC works. So at the same time, the project manager will actually do almost like a two-prong, submit it to GOSER or if whoever's up for the reimbursement at the same time as EFC. So hopefully there'll be a short lead, there'll be a minimum lead time between those two things. So we'll pull the money and then get reimbursed for the money. Kind of the idea would be quickly, and then we just pay off that loan. The other thing I just thought important, this is not like a line of credit where we can only take down $25 million at a time. Once we use the money from that pot, it goes away. So we can't access that again. That's why we have to do the full amount.
A specific purpose.
Right.
Right. And then my other question is for Joe, I think. So we'll have this project going on, right? And again, this is only one part of 4 of the entire Bay Park conveyance project, which is over $500 million, correct?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
I think that's $400 million. 450
I
million.
rounded up.
Yes, there
Okay.
you
So then, my question to you, so we'll have this project going on, and then we'll also have the North Shore critical infrastructure project going on, right?
Correct.
Concurrently. So that means a lot of construction,
Correct.
a whole lot of construction.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nope, not working. Okay. It was for the bond council. I think I counted 8 hopefullys.
Okay. Well, I'm depending on the paperwork of the state and federal government. That's the idea.
Yeah, and in the meantime, though, We paid the interest on that.
Correct. As soon as we draw it down, yes.
Okay. So we have a potential liability, the city will be paying the interest, but as I understand, we get the interest back from,
We are getting the interest from sewer rents. That's the idea right now. So we will. Oh.
Sorry, Ina Raznak, City Controller. Don't kill the messenger. But I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. The interest will be paid out of the sewer rents, sewer fund revenues. Sewer fund revenues are collected from the city residents. So where the principal of $165 million is gifted to us by FEMA and Gosser, the interest is being paid out of our sewer fund. That's the money that the city residents paid into this fund. Does that make sense?
well,
Let me.
but that money for the sewer fund right now is used to pay for the costs of the sewers.
For the debt, we have a couple of departments in a sewer fund, and sewer fund also pays down the debt. Currently, there is about $12 million of the debt that was issued for various sewer-related projects, and sewer runs fund this, the pay down of this debt, both principal and interest. So this will be similar to that. The payment of the interest on this EFC loan will be paid out of sewer fund.
Okay, but I'm still trying to understand. You say that right now we have $12 million of bonds in the sewer department, and does the county take over those bonds?
The county takes over the bonds, however, the sewer rents will be collected by the city. The debt
Up to
that's
what
outside-
point? I'm sorry, it's collected by the city once
I
the
think
county
that-
takes over.
I don't know necessarily that this was that was already negotiated and put into writing as to what point. For now, indefinitely, we'll be collecting water and sewer runs. So the process would not change in terms of billing and collections. What's collected then, we will use towards the payment of that debt. Remember, we have $12 million. That debt will be outstanding for 10 more years.
So we can collect our sewer rent even though we're not running the sewers for the next 10
We'll
years?
collect the county sewer rent, use the portion that we need to use to pay down that $12 million. The remainder
and the
will
interest.
be turned over to the county.
And the interest that,
Correct.
and use that portion to pay down the interest we're paying for the ECF.
For the EFC loan, that's going to be more of a short-term interest because the nature of that borrowing is going to be borrowed for short periods of time. So while the sewer debt, it's a long-term debt where we pay principal and interest over 20 years, something like that with the EFC, we're probably not going to, by the time that we will turn over the keys to the county, we should be done with payment of this interest.
Of that you estimated that about 600,000.
A little over $600,000, but it all depends on how fast we're going to get reimbursed by
Right,
FEMA
I
and
understand
Gosser.
that, but
So
like I said,
as soon as we're going to get the money, we're going to give that back
Ina,
to...
hang on. I'm going to stop you both because this question's been asked and answered 20 times already. I'm going to translate from accountant and Roy to English for everyone so you understand what's going on here. What basically happens is any debt the city incurs in closing our sewage plant and hooking it up to Bay Park, we get reimbursed from. What happens is when our sewer plant closes, Nassau County takes it over. But if we have any money we are still owed for debt, Nassau County is going to let us to continue to keep the sewage fees until all our debt is paid off, even though they will be running the system. So what Nassau County is doing is making sure we are made whole for any debt we have on that plan. So that's a simple English explanation of what they were just going back and forth.
That's
on.
exactly correct. That's right.
So that the county agrees that they're not collecting money
Actually,
until all
we
of
have
our debt.
Miss Jane Hudek. She's the county attorney
Right.
who really was involved in putting the agreement together, and I think she'd like to say a few words if you don't mind.
A couple of things. We talked about the whole process.
You need to step up to the mic.
Can
Yeah.
I do this because I'm too short? So we talked about the whole EFC process where we will be basically, there's the money that we get the bond authorization, and that's really just a backstop. We have no intention of ever tapping into that. And to date now, we've been talking about the $450 million Western Bays project, which Eric and his team have amply been managing for us. We're not the county had to do the same thing. We had to authorize a bond in excess of $450 million for that project. We have not tapped into any of that money. We've been getting reimbursement from the federal government, from the state government, because we are effectively managing that project in order to minimize the amount of any sort of borrowing and interest. And we will be taking that same, well-developed skill set and applying it to this project, which is on a much smaller scale. And it's going to be the same team that's going to be providing that same level of management. And it has been correctly pointed out, the whole intent of the intermunicipal agreement between the county and the city is to make everything run smoothly, right? You people, everybody who lives here in Long Beach, you're part of the county. I represent you too, right? So the idea was, let's put together an agreement so we can effectively connect the city of Long Beach to Bay Park, eliminate pollution, reduce debt, reduce the burden on you all for managing infrastructure and for managing not only the brick and mortar infrastructure, but the payment of fees, the people who have to keep track of all those things. So the IMA has a process by which you will eventually become part of the county system. You will eventually become, another ratepayer in the overall county sewer district, just like every other person in Merrick and every other place. And
The question is real simple. We don't start paying the county until all our debt is paid off.
Your debt is a legitimate expense of your sewer use collection. So that will be paid off of from your collection of sewer rents.
From our collection?
Yes.
And then the county will start collecting, but not until our debt is paid off. That's all I want to hear.
The only issue could be we would consolidate you into the county system. There could be some outstanding debt, but if that happens, then the county takes over that debt.
So it doesn't come out of the taxpayers here?
There's not going to be any increased tax levy in order to increase.
No increased sewer levy?
The sewer, you have to take care of your sewer levy the way you normally take care of your sewer levy, right? And so the idea is for a transition period, you're going to collect the debt, the sewer levies, you're going to pay your debt, and then you're going to turn over money to the county. At some point, you'll be consolidated into the county system, and then the county takes over everything, including any remaining debt that might exist.
Okay. All right.
That's the way the IMA is
Thank you
written.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, any more questions from the council?
I just have one more. Joe, when they talked about most of the sewage going into Cedar Creek, does that mean a portion is going back into the bay?
No, nothing will be going into the bay. When this
Nothing.
project is complete, nothing.
So where does that...
Oh, okay. So everything. So what I can tell you 100% is that because there's there's an elevated level of treatment at South Shore, right? So everything from the city of Long Beach will go to South Shore and get this additional. There's two different nitrogen
Treatment.
removal
Yes, I
processes
understand
there.
that.
Okay. So because of the distance, though, between South Shore and Wantagh.
Right.
So it was an engineering decision having to do with the distance, the energy, all that the maximum that the Bay Park Conveyance Project will bring over is 75 million gallons per day. So 75 MGD. So that encapsulates all the dry weather flow, which is the strongest wastewater you can have. But there are, let's say, well above average to extreme wet weather events that no, it will still be, and this would be more dilute effluent because it's full of rainwater, but under those circumstances, there's the existing outfall for South Shore will still be used.
Still go into the bay.
So there's still a limit, but by all the calculations that we've done and looking at all the data, it's going to remove more than 95% of the nitrogen that's going in there.
It was just, the question was,
Yep.
you know, like Joe said, it's 100% not going into the bay, but you're saying possibly we can go into the bay.
It definitely will for a Hurricane
okay.
Ida type of thing. I've looked at all the data, and it's very isolated, but it's also open to emergency operation. If something happens at Cedar Creek,
Right.
if something happens on the force main or what have you, that indefinitely, if there is a Hurricane Sandy kind of event where both of those facilities have to lock down
Yeah.
and keep things tight and be running their own ship on their own energy and all that, they definitely will not be sending it to Cedar Creek. But these
Right.
are extremely isolated incidents, but I want to make sure everyone will understand that it still happens.
When
that
you said most, that's
Yeah.
why I asked the question.
because when you go by that in a boat
Yeah.
from the outfall, if anyone's seen that concrete box that's out
Yeah, I
there,
know.
you can see it on the surface that there's motion underneath there. So as long, you know, and we will be doing outreach and all that, but people have to understand that it will happen from time to time under these
Okay.
events, and that if they see something there, that they would not be so surprised. You know?
All right, thank you.
One quick question on, will there be a trickle flow to the discharge over here in Long Beach, or will that line be isolated and only open?
Gone, 100%.
What's that?
100% off.
So it'll be isolated unless it's needed for
No.
the extreme events?
In Long Beach? No, the outfall is going to be gone.
No. The discharge from Bay
Oh,
Park
Bay Park, okay, I'm sorry.
out to the effluent over here that you said will just be in extreme weather events most likely
Or
used.
emergencies,
Will that
yes.
line be isolated, or will there be a trickle flow through it?
They're just, okay, so with the way the conveyance project is done, no, there would be, there's an overflow weir. So currently there's a channel that goes towards the effluent pump station. So when it's low tide, it can go out by gravity, or it has to be pumped. Now, what's going to happen upstream of the existing effluent pump station there is there's going to be a weir that will, under normal flow conditions, up to the 75 MGD, will be sending it into this new diversion pump station. So when the diversion pump station is in operation and things are below 75 million gallons per day, there will not be any trickle flow, there will be nothing. The pipe will be full for the most part, you know, whatever drains by to the level of gravity, right? To the basically to the water elevation service in the surrounding ocean. But yeah, there won't be anything coming through it unless it's going beyond the 75 MGD.
Okay. So let's open the public hearing and let the public ask any questions they may have. So any questions from the public on this? All right, Ms. Lake.
Crystal Lake, Long Beach, New York. Good evening, everyone. When would this project be totally decommissioned? Approximate lead time?
So ma'am, do you mean the existing plant gone and restored, or when will the system be turned on?
When the actual conversion will be completed?
So
Approximately.
I would say 100% turned over 3.5 years from now.
3.5 years from now. So from that point in time, would the county assume all maintenance, oversee that entire conversion?
Its county operators will be taking over this new pump station and also taking over the operation and maintenance of those satellite pump stations as well.
Okay, so at that point in time, will the Long Beach residents, we will be billed by the county at that point in time or somewhere in that time, regardless of the outstanding debt.
Yeah, that's not me.
Okay.
Crystal, what's going to happen is that they, ultimately, after all the debt is paid, the county is going to take over the actual collection system as well as the satellite pump stations and the pump station. So they will be responsible for the city sewer system. The city will, in effect, be out of the sanitary sewer business. We won't be responsible for maintaining the lines in the street, like whereas now you call the sewer department, you would be calling the county. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, and I thank you for that, Mr.
Yeah,
Fabrizio.
my pleasure always.
So, the county will not be billing Long Beach residents until all the debt or most of the debt has been repaid?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Jane, is that your understanding of the agreement?
That's what she said.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so the debt could potentially be taken over by the county.
The debt will be 100% taken over by the county. It'll be paid with the rates received by, the sewer revenue received by the city will be used to pay back the debt on the facility. So right now, as Councilman Bendo mentioned, we owe $12 million. That $12 million has to be paid off before they start receiving the revenue from the city for sewer rents.
The IMA, the lawyers work together to ensure that the city, the residents of the city will not be taken for a ride on this. We will be made whole, 100%.
100%?
Yes.
Okay. And from what would be the approximate time of the conversion, approximately?
I mean, right now, the city's under, it's called a consent order, or order on consent with the Department of Environmental Conservation. And the way it's written right now, I believe the project is supposed to be finished by December or the end of 2025. That obviously may have to be modified based on what Eric just said, and maybe we may have to ask for an extension on that, because, that's only two and a half years away. So my gut tells me it's going to probably be every bit of maybe 3 years, like Eric just said. But right now, we are under an order on consent to finish it by the end of 2025.
Okay.
But I think we're going to need an extension, and if they see we're working on the project, in good faith, we should get it from the Department of Environmental Conservation.
Okay, and one other question. What might be the potential rates? Is there a guesstimate, approximately, that we may be paying as compared to now?
I can't answer. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well,
I can only tell you what
Okay.
like the city, right now your rates will remain the same because they're under city control. Once it comes under county control in 3, 4, 5 years, I would suspect that would be up to the county's decision.
of course.
The rates.
Of course. I'm just trying to figure out how
Right.
we can prepare for any potential increase or whatever. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hodge.
Thank you. James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street, right here in our beautiful city, from Nevada to Maple, from the bay to the ocean. So there's a lot of conversation about where this crap is going, sewer. Well, I just say, where the sewage is going. And it seems like we need all the time that we can get. And thank you guys for the presentation, but, I was talking to our amazing legislator, and she's going to come up and speak. I think we need to have another residents meeting so we can get more clarity on exactly what if, maybe FEMA. I'm not sure. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? So I think some people have strong clarity in what's going on, but I think the residents need more information. I think our city council needs more information. And I think we need to have another presentation here just on this information alone. Go ahead, John.
No.
Oh, so again, I was asking our legislator, can she have maybe a meeting just on this, because it's so much going on tonight, but maybe we can get some more clarity on exactly what will take place, what will happen, just so all of the residents know. And also, since it's going to be so much work going on, that it's posted on a constant update is posted on the city's website, because when all of that work do take place, there will be a lot of rodents, which we already know that are along the bay side, and I know they were doing some things to address it, but just so residents constantly know what's taking place and what's going on. But again, I just wanted to say, if this could be a separate meeting, totally by itself, so all of the residents can ask maybe more questions or just come for just the meeting without everything else. All right? Thank you.
Okay. Legislator Ford.
Denise Ford, 36 Ohio. This is a fine example of what happens when governments work together for the benefit and the good of the residents that they serve. And I have to say a heartfelt thanks to Joe Fabrizio in York DPW. Yeah. He worked very diligently with, and even the former commissioner, John Miranda, was also very instrumental in with the piping going over to Bay Park. With our own Commissioner of Public Works, Ken Arnold, of course, our council, Jane Hodak, and all of the other people from Suez, Hazon, you know, there have been so many players that have been an integral part of this project, and it is very, very important. And I just want to quickly remind, I'm not going to go on, but, you know, almost 20 years ago, there was a study commissioned to study the Western Bays, okay? And we never expected, once that study was done, to see how impaired the Western Bays, as well as Reynolds Channel, turned out to be, from the Bay Park sewage treatment plant, as well as the Long Beach. And I'm sure many of you here remember Scott Bachner when he had the brown tide that was coming out right across the street from his house. We took a look at fish, marine life that doesn't exist in our waters anymore because of this, all right? So by doing this project, and it really has been was a blessing, I guess, when they found that old viaduct under Sunrise Highway and they're able to seal it up. And the county has been working on putting in all the piping so that I believe it might be the end of 24, Jane, we may be going. I think we may be converted. We may be able to pull the switch on that, but that it's coming very, very fast, all right? So what we're going to look at is we're going to see a resurgence of the marine life. We're going to see a lot of fish that have not been here before come back. What's even more important is that the marshlands, they have been impacted. What nitrogen has done to the marshlands is like really sinful. And so by eliminating all this nitrogen, you're going to see that the marshlands are going to come back. They're going to start becoming healthy. They'll be able to regenerate themselves. We will be able to replant some of it. And one of the interesting things that I found out about marshlands, and because I go to these presentations, is that they can also act as a natural barrier in helping to alleviate flooding. So which is very significant, because when we look at our North Shore, on the north side of our island, how many times do we get flooded because of the water? So this is going to be something that will benefit everybody. And I have to thank the county also for wanting to do this, to make it so that it's basically seamless for the residents, as well as that there'll be no cost borne by the residents. And it's something that I'm proud that the county has stepped up to the plate and is taking care of everybody who lives in this city and who lives on this barrier island. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm just, the legislator brought up something that maybe wasn't clear during the presentation, is between our sewage plant and Bay Park, I think we put about 90 million gallons a day of effluent into the bay right here. Both discharges are right off of Long Beach. One is basically behind our dog park, and the other is over around Magnolia. That's the Bay Park one. What this project will do when it is done is the discharge from our plant and Bay Park both will go through, they found an old underground water aqueduct under Sunrise Highway. They're going to use that to take the sewage from the two plants, send it to Wantor, to the Cedar Creek sewage plant, which has an outflow that goes 4 miles out into the ocean. So what we will be doing is not putting 90 million gallons a day of sewage plant effluent into the bay right here, which will clean it up enormously and will bring back fish life, aquatic botanicals and things like that that can't survive right now because of all the nitrogen that gets put in the water from the two sewage plants. So this is going to be a great benefit for all of us, and it's basically all being paid forward with grant money. So this is a good thing for the city. So anyone else right here?
Hi, thank you. Kevin Martinson, Long Beach, New York, 311 East Penn Street. I'm here to talk about Equinor.
Nope, we're not talking about that right now.
Okay. All right.
So
we're going to talk about it afterwards?
we are going to talk about
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Kramer?
Hi, Christina Kramer, 361 East Broadway. Just curious, you said you have 4 acres. You'll have 4 spare acres, of that land. Do we have any proposals of what you might be doing with that land?
Not as of yet.
Nothing. Okay. And I just hope that we all love the ocean as much as we love the bay and the fish in the bay, because I'd love that same sentiments towards our ocean. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. On to the next item.
Our second public hearing is for a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 917 West Beach Street, street floor, Long Beach, New York.
Okay, and we'll open the hearing for that. Is the business owner here? Okay.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Farah Stricker. I'm the Chief Nursing Officer at Thrivewell Infusion.
Great. And can you tell us about the business?
Yes, so we are an infusion-based business in New York. We provide biologic infusions to treat different autoimmune diseases and medical conditions. This will be our 10th center in New York. So we have individualized rooms instead of going to a hospital and getting an infusion in a room with maybe multiple other people. Each person will have their own infusion suite so they can get their medical care in a comfortable environment.
Okay. How many patients do you anticipate having at one time?
So our Long Beach location will have 3 private suites.
Okay.
So each infusion injections are like a 15 to 30 minute appointment, but most infusions run like anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. So it's not a large amount of patients in a day. And we're looking to start off with only probably 2 days a week, but to meet the needs of whatever the community needs here.
And are these performed by licensed medical professionals?
Yes. So there will be a nurse practitioner on site and a registered nurse on site always while the administration's being done.
Okay. I guess we'll nip this one in the bud because there was a rumor that got started, as often happens, that this is also going to be doing IVs to cure hangovers, which is common in places like Key West.
No, this is
Las Vegas?
This is biologic infusion.
Okay.
We do not do, and all our IV hydration is only for somebody who maybe has chemotherapy and they have issues with it, so we do hydrations, or we would do it in addition to somebody who's getting, let's say, Tysabri for multiple sclerosis. They may get a hydration infusion after, so it's not just generalized hydration.
Right. Okay. And do you anticipate getting deliveries?
Yes, so we would probably get once a week is our plan to get just all of our medications delivered on one specific day. It usually comes in two packages, like two stops. FedEx gives us all our deliveries in the morning, and then specialty pharmacy deliveries would come once in one day from usually UPS.
Okay. And what do you anticipate your days and hours to be?
So we're trying to figure out what the needs are going to be here. Realistically, we want to do 2 days during the week, one that has like a morning, like 8 to 2, and then one that does more like a 2 to 8, so we can kind of meet needs of people who would need it before work or after work. But we are kind of flexible because we're opening a new place, so.
Are you affiliated with a hospital system or you're independent?
So we're independent. We do have one partnership with Montefiore where we are just open in their facility in the Bronx, but we have no
Okay.
relation with any other
All right.
hospitals.
Any other questions from any of the council?
website where people can go and?
We do. So thrivewellinfusion.com. So the website has all the locations, pictures. It shows all the different disease processes that we treat with all the different medications. We do about 100 different medications on our formulary, so it has all the information there.
I just have a question. Are there any extra, like sanitation or pickup needs for needles, receptacles?
So yes, so we do so it depends on the size of the center. For this one, it would probably be like every 3 months we would have one pickup where they would come and collect the sharps containers. Other than that, there's no like things like that. It's just the IVs. Okay. So we don't do any other procedures.
Thank you.
We do 1 foot patch for pain management, but that's also, it's not like a hazardous discharge. So.
Got it.
Any other questions from the council?
And these are done in beds, so to speak?
No, so we actually have
A
custom
chair?
infusion chairs that are heated because people get cold during an infusion because it's like room temperature saline, so sometimes people feel cold. So it's just like a heated lounge chair. So the room is kind of like a small room. It has a heated lounge chair in it for the patient and then a flat screen TV.
Oh, so one chair per room?
1 chair per room.
How many rooms do you have?
3 rooms, I think, is what our construction plan is for that space.
Okay. And is Thrivewell a corporation, or what is it?
So we are. I think we're a corporation, LLC. I'm the clinical side, the
Okay.
person who is supposed to do it, who does more of the construction and
It just wasn't
business.
mentioned anywhere what you were. That's
Yeah,
why.
no, we're a private corporation.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the public? All right, seeing none, let's close the hearing, and why don't we vote on this one now, Dave?
Okay, so I'm going to call this out of order, which is with...
We're going to vote so you can go home.
Yes. So, okay, so we're going to go out of order onto agenda item number 2, which is a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 917 West Beach Street. Who would introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Welcome to Long Beach, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and our third public hearing for this evening is a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding city officers, their general powers and duties.
Okay, I guess I'll field that one. So as people know, we're going to be commencing a city manager search. One of the lessons we learned a few years ago when I was first on the council, when we were going to do a search, was the requirement that the city manager live within the city of Long Beach created some problems for some potential applicants. So, for example, if you had somebody that lived in Westbury or Hicksville that had a home, maybe had kids in school, had roots there, they couldn't apply for the job unless they were basically willing to sell their home and move to Long Beach. I get some people think they should be willing to do that. And that'll certainly be a question we will ask during the interview process if the person would be willing to move to Long Beach. But we felt that to expand the applicant pool to get the most qualified applicants possible, that this was a necessary step to not preclude people that may be well qualified but wouldn't apply because they're not going to uproot their families and sell their homes to move, a few miles down the road here. So that's why we're doing this. And I'll leave it at that. Any questions from the council? All right, any from the public? All right, Ms. Egan. Stop.
Nora Egan. So I understand what you're saying about people not wanting to move, but why should we consider a city manager that isn't willing to pay the same tax as us, to deal with the same roads, to deal with the same amenities or lack of amenities, to have a vote in the city council, the school board, the library board? It just doesn't make any sense to me that we would even consider somebody who would not move 15 miles away. And is this on the advice of the search board that you engaged last month?
No.
So if this is something you came up with now, why are you only coming up with now and why didn't you think of it before you engaged the search board?
They have nothing to do with each other.
But wouldn't you have put in like your recommendations to the search board on what the criteria that you're looking?
You keep saying search board. There is no search board.
So did you not hire a search board for
We hired a
5,000?
consultant.
A consult firm.
That is
Wrong
helping
terminology.
us develop a candidate profile.
So did you not
for-
give your requirements to them last month when you engaged them?
Yes, and we had some discussions that this was discussed, but it's our decision.
Okay. But I think, well, myself and a few people that I've talked to, my husband, I think that it should be somebody who is willing to pay and to live within like the same constraints that we have.
None of us disagree that the person should have some skin in the game here in Long Beach. We don't disagree with that. And that's why that's going to be a question that's going to get asked during the interview. But if you got someone that has a home in Island Park and has kids in school and saying you can't apply for this job if you don't move across the bridge, even though you may be well qualified for the job, quite frankly, that's hurting us. That's not hurting that person, that's hurting us. Because what we're doing is we are eliminating what could be a well-qualified candidate because they're not going to be willing to uproot their family for I mean, it's not like you're moving from here to California for a job. We're talking about somebody that might have to sell their home and move 5 or 6 miles for this.
So
that does it to us, and ultimately we're the ones that make this decision. That does not make sense.
You are the only one that makes the decision, I get that. But would you not then consider widening the area? Why cut it off at 15 miles? Why not put it to 50 or 100? Like why cap it at 15? That just seems a little bit...
We capped it at Nassau County or 15 because the 15 would allow to go into Queens and some of Brooklyn. But the idea is the person does need to be close enough that they can get here within a reasonable amount of time if something happens.
Okay.
So we don't want someone living up in northern Westchester County that would take 2 hours to get here, 4 with New York City traffic, if we have an event that requires the city manager to get here in a hurry.
Right, because they don't typically work 9 to 5, so that
It's
would
a
change their
24/7
complete
job.
like contract.
Just ask him.
Well, no, I get that. That's a completely different matter. But I just want to put it on record that I don't think it's... I think they should be, like, paying the same as us. Thanks.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Legislator Ford.
Denise Ford, 36 Ohio. As much as I love Ron Walsh, and I think that he's doing a fantastic job as a city manager, I really would ask him that if he's going to throw his hat into this search, that you do consider moving to Long Beach. Because for me, I firmly believe in my heart, and I understand this whole argument, well, the best qualified. But I also then would have to question how thoroughly did we search throughout the city of Long Beach to see if there was anybody who was uniquely qualified. We've had some pretty good city managers in the past, deputy city managers that really worked very hard at their jobs and everything, and they all lived here in the city. We never really had all of these problems until we brought somebody in from the outside in the person of Jack Schneerman, and ever since then, it seems that we were going down on a downhill trend to a certain degree. Of course, Ron, like you are helping to elevate. But I honestly believe that a city manager, somebody who we're going to entrust the care and the operation of our city to be able to take care of all the residents, I honestly believe there's something to be said that having that person, either who comes from the city of Long Beach or who is willing to show their commitment to doing the best that they can by becoming a resident in the city of Long Beach. I think we deserve that, and I think that even years ago, you know, when you were first looking, and even with Donna Gaydon, you knew that she was only going to be here for a short time. That was the whole thought behind her, that we should have at that point started to looking really thoroughly, setting up something to be able to look for a good candidate. And I just want to point out that, you know, I understand getting these people, these agencies that we can hire to do it. But in the county, when we had to hire, we decided to bring in an IG. And what we did was we took a couple of the legislators, put them on a committee, and it was up to us to reach out, read the resumes, interview all the candidates. And to that was at no cost to the city, to the residents of Nassau County. So I honestly think, please, rethink this decision. I honestly think that there's got to be somebody here that you can have, or else, you know, Ron, I'll help you move, okay? Thank you.
Denise? You know, you brought up a good point as far as people in the city. If you have somebody that you feel is qualified, and that goes to anybody, let us know. If we have to approach them, we'll approach them. It's, you know, my worry is not getting the best person.
Right.
I don't want just a person whose qualification is he lives here. I want somebody that's going to do what Ron's starting to do now and raise this city.
No,
Bring it back.
I agree with you, you know, and this could be a benchmark that can be used. But maybe then it should be up to the city then, now to advertise, to be able to ask the Herald to run something or to go on social media to say to everybody, and especially the people to say, this is what we're looking for. Maybe there is somebody in the city.
So I'll address that. We did that when I first got on the council, and you know who was applying for the job of city manager? Hairdressers, deli cashiers,
Well, and
people that
I
worked at
understand,
McDonald's.
Yeah. No, I understand.
You know,
you have to go through all
we
of
are
that.
doing
but, yeah.
this in a professional manner. You know, and you know, in government, people don't live in areas they represent all the time. You represent areas you don't live in.
Right.
And that's the way government works
But I have
sometimes.
to live in my district, one way or the other. I have to live within the confines of my district.
Correct.
Okay? You know, if you're the mayor of Glen Cove, I believe you have to live in the city of Glen Cove. You know, Bruce Blakeman is the county executive. He has to live in the county of Nassau. You know, Steve Ballone has to live in the county of Suffolk
Right,
County.
which is why
So,
we're
yeah.
saying you have to
Yeah.
live in proximity to Long Beach.
But they're also elected officials.
Right. But what I'm saying is, it's like, I think that, for me, I just think that there's something to be said when somebody lives here. And that's just my opinion.
That's fine. I understand what you're saying, but I'm telling you from real-life experience from the last city manager search, this is better for the residents to get a better candidate pool.
Well, then maybe if you want to bring somebody from outside, you give them up to a year to move here if they want to stay.
Well,
okay? That's, you know, and I understand.
I can.
I know you're trying to do the best, but I honestly think that the optics of it is not.
I can tell you that, you know, the way that this administration has viewed the position of city manager has been that the city manager is a professional. Okay, it's a professional. You actually can go to school for a master's in public administration, which is what I have and which is what Ron has. So the thing is,
Well, you live here, Karen, so you be city manager.
actually, I am not qualified to be city manager because just having a degree does not mean you're qualified to be a city manager. And I think the thing is that's what this administration is moving towards. It's not just because I know you and you're a nice guy and you've been a lawyer for 20 years or that your family has a business here that you should be city manager. You should have the education and then you should also have the governmental experience. And I have been looking for city managers high and low for 18 years in this city, and I haven't found one yet. Charles Theophan did not live in Long Beach, right?
He had an apartment here.
He had an apartment
Which
here.
he never stayed in.
Right, so he did not live here. So there is precedent within the last 20 years for a city manager not living here.
Well, no,
And
wait. the rule was changed for Charles Theophan. There was not a rule that the city
Right.
manager
And we
had to
did not
live in the
agree with
city.
that, yeah.
They changed it for
He should
Charles
have lived here,
Theophan
plain and
because
simple.
there was a blizzard and he was stuck at his house in Freeport and could not get to town.
And that
That's
is wrong.
why-
And there you go.
That is correct.
There
That
you go.
is-
He lived in Freeport.
That is
He
why
got stuck in his house, and he wasn't
changed
here
the rule.
to to
I will-
oversee the
I
operations.
will counter the argument, though, that when people were picked from within Long Beach, those were political appointments. Those were not based on ability. They were based on your politics. We are getting away from that type of government here.
And
we are now going to have a government based on the ability of the people in the jobs, not their political
But
connections.
don't discount even some of the people that had served this city, even if they were political appointments. Ed Eaton served the city very well for a good many years.
I'm not
okay?
saying he
And,
didn't, but-
You know, and I mean, he was city manager for a very long time, and he garnered a lot of respect amongst many residents. You know, when you look at the changes that happened in Long Beach, he was working
Okay.
hand in hand. So
But
I don't want to belabor this,
Yeah,
but I'm
and-
just
and
saying.
we're
yeah, but I
taking-
understand.
I just want to say that I originally, years ago, did think that the city manager should live in Long Beach. And I firmly believed it. But over time, having been in the trenches here and seeing the things that have gone here and knowing that for the people that were city managers in the past that live here, that I had to vote for a $75 million judgment for the next 30 years, I've changed my mind, and I'm open to thinking of different ways of how to do things. And I think that we need to get the best candidate, and if they truly love Long Beach, they're going to move here anyway. The thing is also, $205,000 is not enough to buy a house in Long Beach. So basically, you're not just moving yourself, you're moving your husband or your wife. So that means 2 jobs. You need to make $300,000 or $400,000 to live here. We're not paying $300,000 or $400,000. So we got to think of what we really want, and we have to open up the pool to get the best talent. Also, one person is not running the entire city. It's the city manager and their team, their full senior management team. So the thing is, no one person, if one person can't be there, then you have the team to help you. So that's the part of leadership. You have a team. So if the city manager can't make it, the deputy city manager, the police commissioner, the other people. That's the sort of a talent that we want to attract to Long Beach.
And the same holds true for even those, Ed Eaton had a team as well, and he ran the city, and even mistakes were made. And even when you talk about the cost of the houses, everybody here who lives in the city of Long Beach understands how much our values have raised, and we're also looking because we see it in the reflection of our city
Yeah,
taxes. So
we're
I
like-
think that, yes, I do say, go for somebody who's professional, somebody who could really do a good job, but just bear in mind that that person, just as we pay the taxes, they should pay the same taxes as we do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right, any other comments? Mr. Hodge?
James Hodge here in this great city. My whole life, I've been a wonderful resident here, and it's been an honor. Speaking on this particular issue, I think, you guys said you hired a consultant, and this is what I was speaking about last time. If you're going to hire consultant firms and waste money and then make the decision, what's the point of hiring them when we have so many taxes we're paying? You said you guys are making a decision even before the consultant firm tell you that. Listen, thank God that so many people live in Long Beach and get an opportunity to work outside of Long Beach, right? So that's amazing. Like me, I work out of town, and so many others. But there's 37 to 40,000 in the summertime, 1,000 residents or more in the summertime. And I believe that it should be an extensive search here in the city of Long Beach. Let your team of however many consultants you have work on announcing and advertising. We have experts from around the country that live here in Long Beach. And you know what? This is not about a person. This is about Long Beach being able to make a lot of decisions for Long Beach. All right? It's about Long Beach being able to make a lot of decisions for Long Beach. And I think when you give the residents and the taxpayers Why don't you bring some of the taxpayers and residents a part of a committee, like I said, to do the research with city council members for the city manager? But we have a consultant, and you guys are already making a decision, so why did you vote on a consultant? Whether it's to shape what the parameters will be in the resume or the job description, you know, I just think that, again, you have so much talent here in the city of Long Beach, and I just say, let's really do a thorough search here in Long Beach outside of just voting on this tonight because you already have your plans on what you want to do. Just be transparent and let the community know exactly what you want to do and why you're doing it. Thank you.
President Bendo, do we have a plan? Because I don't know it.
So, you could sit, James. You're done. No, you're done. You're done. So you're coming up here saying decisions have been made and things like that. Clearly, you have no understanding of the process or what we're doing. So don't come back. There's no reason for you to talk. Your time is up. Your time is up.
If you're addressing me, I'm going to address you back.
No,
and
you're
don't
not.
tell me I don't have no understanding. I do have an understanding. And what I'm saying is...
James, please.
I'm addressing him.
Just
He's
amp it
addressing
down.
me. I'll step back and let him address me. What you telling him? Get me out of the meeting?
Thank you.
All we're doing at this point is working with a consultant for a small amount of money to develop a candidate profile. We have not started a search yet. The search has not commenced. So coming up here and making speculation and things like that, ask. Stop coming up and making stuff up, ask. We haven't started a search. What we're trying to do right now is work with a professional who does city manager searches to say, based on the city's needs at this time, what kind of candidate do we need? What characteristics do they need to have? Once we do that, and we get to that point where that is done, then we will decide how to commence the search, whether it's using a consultant or whatever. I will tell you again, last time we tried to do this, we just posted the job on Monster and Indeed and some websites, and it was a disaster, an absolute disaster. This lends itself to needing professional help to guide, to make sure we get the right people. These are people who have contacts in candidate pools, so we can get professionals that might not, maybe they're not from here, they might be from other places. There are a lot of people who make a living being professional city managers that go around and take jobs. So right now, all we are doing is developing a candidate profile. That is all we are doing right now. And when that's done...
All I want to say is this, and you're entitled to do that. I was just giving my opinion before you told him to get me out. I just saw you, and the people will see it on the video. But I have 3 minutes no matter what you say.
Because you abused the process. You get your 3 minutes.
And I didn't go over.
And you did.
I didn't. I never
You didn't?
went. See?
Then I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize.
Thank
You didn't. I apologize. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Okay, anyone else? Mr. Kirkland. Oh, I'm sorry, this gentleman here, James, wait a second. This gentleman here has been waiting.
Hello, my name is Ron Jordan. I live on Lincoln Boulevard. Can we hear it now? This is good? Can we hear it?
Yeah, you just have to get close to it, that's all.
All right, or I can talk louder. That's easy too. I got no problem talking loud. So, we have a question, and the first question we have is, what we would like is, once the criteria for the city manager has been created, we would like that to be posted in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, sure.
Because the question comes up, what are the qualifications? What are we looking for in a city manager? What does that city manager, what kind of education does that city manager need to have? What kind of qualifications beyond education does a city manager have? So that's our first question and comment, and we feel that it should be posted in talking with other people in the town. The other thing is, every one of us has a job. And these jobs are very important, and we have to spend a lot of time with our jobs. The city manager's job is a 24/7 job. Our police commissioner is a 24/7 job as well. What we'd be looking for is, if we are searching for a city manager, and we decide that out of all the city managers, Mr. Walsh is the best qualified candidate for us, we'd like to see, do we now go and look for a police commissioner? I can appreciate that he likes to keep his job in the police department because of the other ramifications, but these are 24/7 jobs. I have a job, I do my work, I can't do two jobs at once. With the city manager and the police commissioner, we have a police force that is very good, highly paid, and they need a full-time commissioner, as we need a full-time city manager. So that's what we would be looking for in this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Kirkland.
Jim Kirkland, Long Beach, New York. There's an old expression, I think, and it goes kind of like this: everybody needs to have skin in the game. And so I think that should apply to any position that exists, within the city that's of an important position. And I know that I came down here just to go to grad school, and I've lived here for decades. And during that decades of time that I've lived here, I'm constantly learning more and more about this city that I never knew before. I just discovered that on Beach Street, there's a division wall that goes from Beach Street all the way over to Penn, which landmarked an estate, and that was the side yard. So that means it expanded the entire block, and I've never seen that anywhere. So even currently, there are things happening, and I'm learning more about people that used to be here. Maybe they're still here, the family is here, but if I don't live here, I'm not going to learn anything about any of this sort of stuff. And I ride the roads, but everybody rides the roads, so I can't even use those as an example, or the sidewalks. But just the experiences that I go through day to day, no matter what I'm doing, I think is a benefit to me in either liking the city more, hating the city more, or finding out what the city needs in the way of improvement or changes. And if you're not here, you can't do that. And so, it isn't about anybody that I'm saying this. It's like anybody that we're going to hire, until they've lived here, they don't even know what the city is like. And so that's why I feel it's important that that be one of the requirements. And that's pretty much all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. So, just using that logic for a second, so we got our Public Works Commissioner sitting over there, Joe Fabrizio. There's probably not a person in this city that doesn't know every inch of road, pipe, equipment more than him. Joe, do you live in Long Beach? No, I do not. Okay. So, and we have a lot of staff that are integral to the operation of this city. This city couldn't run without some of these people that don't live in Long Beach. So the city still, our comptroller does not live in Long Beach. Our comptroller is controlling $115 million a year of taxpayer money, and she knows it better than anyone else in this city. She doesn't live in Long Beach. So this is about getting the best person. Excuse me. Little decorum, please. This is about getting the best person for the job. If that person happens to move to Long Beach or is from Long Beach, all the better. And like I said, that will certainly be asked in the interviews. But more than anything else, this is about getting the best person for the job, because there are things in this city that have to be fixed, and we need the best qualified person to do that. That's what this comes down to. At least I'm only one vote, but so. Any more questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, let's close the hearing.
Okay, on to the regular calendar. Item 1 is an ordinance amending and restating bond ordinance adopted May 17th, 2022 in the amount of $165,759,695. A hearing has been held on this item already. Item 2 has already been called. Item 3 is a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding city officers and their general powers and duties. A hearing has been held on this item already. Items 4, 5, and 6 are going to be called together since they are of the same subject. And items 4, 5, and 6 are resolution authorizing the retention of outside counsel.
So I'll take the time to introduce these 4 items so that everybody understands it out in the audience. The first one is for consultant Sertelman, Balin, Adler, and Hyman. They are zoning and environmental experts. They are being brought on board to be consultants for the Equinor project. They have experience in these projects already, and they also do all the specialized environmental review and SECRA types of reviews. Item number 5 is Be Ready Be Ready Law Group. They are zoning and business consultants that are being hired by the city also as consultants for to consult with us on the Equinor project. They also are consultants on other things with the city as well. And then the last one is the law office of Eli D. Elbit, tough name, E-L-B-O-T-T, Elbit. He works sort of in tandem with the Sertelman Law Group. He is an energy consultant and also has experience in wind and generation projects as well in this area. So those are the 3 respective consultancies that are in front of you for this.
Okay, so what we're doing here, to put it in plain English, is we're bringing in the right people to make sure we don't get screwed in this process. We're bringing in the experts so we have the right people to make sure our interests are protected. So, any questions from the council?
Yes, I just, can we please get monthly reports on these legal costs?
Sure. Okay, any other questions from the council?
Yeah,
Greg
Ron,
moved
just-
up to the mic.
Just to be clear, these are all being billed at a tenth of an hour increments?
Yes, they are.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
ahead,
just
Tina.
one. So, the findings and everything, of course, we're going to be putting these out to the community. Is there, once the experts find things out, will there be a forum for the folks and the residents to see what the findings are, like a process? Or a public, put on the portal, put on, I just wanted to clarify that.
So we can put together whatever the council desires, and I don't really think it's a good idea in this process at all, considering the concern some people have not to be as transparent as possible. So that's not a problem. The financial reporting will come to the council. The next item that's coming up is a review that's being done by another consultancy for all of the environmentals. I'll talk about that. But as this goes through, and you'll see these consultants also engaged in the Article 7 process as they're going through. These are the people who will be representing the interests of the city of Long Beach in the negotiations that are going to take place in that public forum.
Are negotiations taking place in a public forum?
They do, yes, they're done in a public forum, yes. The private negotiations are done with regard to the remuneration for the city for land leases and things like that.
Okay.
And it would be a private negotiation with us trying to get a community benefits package for other things, but the negotiation for the actual route and stuff, anybody in the public is able to watch.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions from the council? All right, any questions from the public? Ms. Kramer?
Hello again, Christina Kramer. So once again, I look on the city website and the city council page, and I see the agenda, and I see the 4 consultants. Why can't you write on there that it was about Equinor? Because I didn't know what those were, and that's why I'm here, because it's kind of cryptic. Why do I have to wonder what the consultant or the people you are looking to hire for information for? Who are these people? You know what? Why wasn't it on the agenda as Equinor? The second thing is, what are you asking them to look for? What are you hoping to find? And what kind of recourse do you have once you have whatever it is that you're asking them to find out about the process or the environment?
So it's not
or
necessarily
the EMS?
about finding, it's about the process of negotiation. So I wouldn't suggest that you would negotiate a contract for an NFL football player, right? I don't know anything about that. No one in this room, however much we pay attention, and however much anybody in this room thinks that they know about these types of projects, there are experts who this is what they do.
What are you negotiating for?
So there's a negotiation process that takes place along the path of the transmission lines.
The high voltage.
The transmission
electric
lines, yeah.
right.
Yeah, the ones that carry the electricity. So
That give people leukemia.
those power lines, much the same as a power line anywhere else, these particular ones, because they're coming through, there's a negotiation process as to our concerns. So I could make something up for you. The level of EMF detectable above the ground, right? You could go into a negotiation that say that the city of Long Beach doesn't feel like the shielding is enough and we want additional shielding. You can go into a negotiation of, okay, well, we're concerned about the way you're going to be blocking traffic and the impact of how you're blocking traffic during construction, and you talk about that. All of these things, anything that has to do with those lines is publicly negotiated in this Article 7 process. Once that's done, then if it's settled and there's an agreement, then they could come through the city of Long Beach, right? That's separate and apart from the parkland and our city-owned property, like by the bridge where they're proposing that they're going to go cross Reynolds Channel. So that's strictly ours, and that's a private negotiation because you don't negotiate like this stuff. It's a legal discussion, and that's something that would happen between the city of Long Beach and the company itself. Notwithstanding that, we want certain levels of, like, I know that there's been emails from people in this room to Equinor and about 48 other people on the particular email chain to try and discuss specific monies that people want to see invested in the city of Long Beach if this is going to come through. They want job creation. They want certain level of people being hired. That's all part of a negotiation process that's going to have to take place with the company that does this. Notwithstanding the fact that there's certain limitations on things that you're allowed to actually negotiate because of that NYSERDA contract, like the $15 million that's allocated in there, we have no say in that. That's already been signed in a different contract. So it's a highly complex negotiation, and it's a highly complex issue. And I would not feel comfortable as the city manager, and if you ever have one that sat here and said, I could do this on my own, fire that guy. Because unless he does it for a living, he's not the right person to do that. And we are the people downstairs. We have Joe Lupo, who's in the audience here tonight, who's been doing nothing but Equinor for several months. Joe doesn't feel comfortable to be the guy doing that either, because he doesn't do that for a living.
Are we paying for the consultant with our taxes, or were there intervenor funds for that?
So the intervenor funds are very limited. We asked for $65,000 of the $100,000 that was available. We got awarded, I believe, $20,000 of that. So so these are being paid for out of taxpayer dollars. Yes. So it's sort of the part of the negotiation process, right? If there's big money on the table, you don't want to leave money on the table when you're done with those negotiations, and that's what these people would be here to help us with.
Listen, I know what you said before, that this is going whether or not we want it to go, that the lease has been paid, they gave out the land.
Lease has been taken, right, for the property.
Yeah, Shoreham also was a done deal too.
They built it.
Yeah, and they fought that, and they're not up, and they didn't get it didn't go up. So I just don't want, because you say it here, that we're going to give up. We're not giving
What
up.
I'm saying to you from the perspective of the city, and try not to misinterpret, and if I didn't say it correctly, then I apologize. We have nothing to do whether or not those turbines go on out there.
Well, that's not true.
We have something to do with and say about where the power lines go.
Are you
And
telling me you don't have the ability to talk to senators, to
I don't believe that we
influence, to-
shouldn't have wind farms, so I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. If the city council took that as a vote, I would represent that very strongly if that's what they wanted. But my personal view on wind farms is, I think we should be doing as much green energy as we possibly can for our
Well,
planet
I do too,
to
but
stop
they're
the
not
tides.
green. So you
know,
need
so-
to do a little research.
I've done a lot of
Millions and
research.
Millions of
We
gallons
probably
of
different-
oil into the ocean.
We
They're
probably
not made with
different,
green
have a
parts.
difference of opinion on that.
They're
you know,
not
so-
decomposable. They're not green, so it's not green energy. I'm for green energy. This is not green, and we're not giving up, and we're going to keep fighting. So we'd love it.
I didn't suggest
We would
that.
love it if
Yeah.
we
I
would
didn't
have
suggest
some
that.
representation within the city council.
I don't want you to take this as confrontational. I didn't suggest that. You have a right to have your opinion, and you have a right to fight for the things that you believe in, and that's what makes America great. And I
Right.
support that 110%. I do.
Right.
So please
Right,
don't twist it like I'm trying to say
is
that.
that you're all sitting up there and nobody's fighting with us. We'll fight for straws and plastic bags not to go into the ocean, but we won't fight to save the marine life from sonar and echolocation and washing up dead on our shores. I just can't make the correlation.
So we're going to be bringing in independent experts for that as well to help educate not only the council, but the public also.
All right, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know I'm over.
Thank you.
Okay.
And just, by the way, Ms.
Yeah,
Kramer, just
yeah,
to
one
answer
more
your
question.
first question about each of the resolutions says it's for the Empire Wind 2 project, very clearly. So, this gentleman right here, and then we'll get to you back there.
Thank you. My name is Richard Shuren. I live in Island Park, but thank you. My name is Richard Shuren. I live in Island Park, but I also own real estate in Long Beach. I'm actually representing the Island Park Civic Association in the Article 7 proceeding, and I just want to advise the council and the public that the settlement negotiations that you've talked about are in fact extremely confidential, and in fact, you know, I've been involved in that process, and it's been made clear to myself and all the other parties involved in that process that the settlement negotiations that take place, as you said, on the particular matters such as the
with the
line.
interested parties.
Well, the parties, and for example, I'm forbidden from sharing any
Right.
communications with the members of the Island Park Civic Association, with whom I represent. So I assume that the city of Long Beach and every other party would be in a similar position. I know for a fact they wouldn't be able to, for example, share what takes place in those settlement negotiations with the public. So I just want to say that.
Most of the process here is going to be long and represented by people other than me. I will be informed at how that goes, and our lawyers will be informed on how that goes, and our interests will be represented by them, much the same as you're representing
Yes.
the interests of your particular organization, the civics.
Yeah, absolutely. Your counsel's obviously free to share the information with you, but I don't think he's free to share it with the public, that's all.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
I'm sure that's what our lawyers will advise us on. All right, right here.
Hi, guys. Kelly Martinson, 311 East Penn Street. I wasn't going to talk today, so I'm a little nervous. But I keep hearing at the different meetings about hiring of consultants and hiring, I think there's a zone consultant and environmental consultants, tons of environmental consultants. I have solar panels, had them since 2005. I'm on board. I'm probably greener than half the people here. But what I don't hear is the hiring, and I love whales, the hiring of epidemiologists, economists, to see what the impact of me selling my house on Lincoln the day that tube comes through, what that's going to cost. Because there's going to be 20% of my buying market, right, that's going to say, no, I can't live like you near that high voltage. Are we hiring hematologists? Again, I'm worried about humans. Love the whales. More worried about humans. Hematologists, immunologists, epidemiologists. We need to determine. I went to a meeting in Atlantic Beach, and it was great. They Equinor, they brought this great marine biologist. She had amazing pictures. They had seals with headphones, and it showed that the headphones, these seals, they're not hurt by the noise. What about the humans? We've been under construction since 2012. 2012. What about psychiatrists? Are we bringing in people that are going to tell us, not the environment, I love the environment, what's going to happen to us, our babies, and our families? And the truth is, I worked in a similar industry for a very long time. There's no long-term data on this high voltage in a barrier island. So we need to hire these experts, and maybe they'll help squash it. But that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kramer.
Okay, so Tim Kramer, 361 East Broadway, Long Beach. The first thing I want to say is I find it interesting how we can run the sewer pipe through the marsh, right? But we can't run the electric cable through the inlet and down Reynolds Channel. Quite honestly, it's utter nonsense. The cable's coming from the water. It should continue through the inlet and then down Reynolds Channel and then go on from that point. So this whole thing of going through the city is complete and utter nonsense. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, I would like to say that Congress last Thursday, March 30th, passed a bill called the Lower Energy Cost Act. Okay? And within that bill was a resolution that was co-sponsored by Anthony D'Esposito and Jeff Andrew of New Jersey. And that resolution essentially is asking for a pause on the entire east coast of this windmill, wind turbine project, the entire, not just our little 80,000 acre section, the entire thing. So I would caution Mr. Walsh on saying that this is a done deal and that it's going to go through. This passed Congress, it's going on to the Senate, and this is not over. So I would caution you, just, that's where it's at
If the
now.
federal government chooses to withdraw their leases, then they withdraw their leases. That has nothing to do with the city of Long Beach. The point that I'm
understand.
trying to make is,
I understand,
the
but
voice of
my
Mr.
point was that, you
I know
were
your
saying
point
it's a
was,
done
Mr.
deal,
Kramer,
it's
but
finished, it's
the
over.
point is
That's
that
not the case.
the wind generators out there, the turbines, have nothing to do with this council. What we're dealing with is whether or not a transmission line will come through here. If that transmission line never comes, then this is moot, completely moot.
Right.
If they are built out there, that transmission line goes somewhere.
So why in the world, if it's coming, if the cable that's going to Brooklyn is going to go, through New York Harbor, the whole thing, and it ties into Brooklyn, the one that's the other turbine field.
I don't have the answers to that.
Well, that's the answer you got to find out. Like, that's crazy to think that it's coming from the ocean. The cable's coming from the ocean, and it's not going through the channel. It makes no sense to me. There's no reason for this to meander through our entire community, and it's zigzagging all over the place. It's craziness. So please, advocate for us. And nobody wants this. Nobody okay, some people are for the turbine, some people aren't. Blah blah blah. Here's 100%. Nobody wants this cable running through the town. Nobody.
So I'll just add one point. If you were on the call when the Public Service Commission was taking testimony, this was kind of my testimony to them, is that the way the Article 7 process is set up, they actually make it, from a bureaucratic standpoint, they make it easier to go through people than to go through empty parkland or to go through waterways. And you're right, it's absurd. That's the system the state set up. I don't know why. But they make it easier to go through people than empty space or water. So, and that's where we are right now. So they're proposing, if you looked at their application, alternate routes take them across Lido, across the beach area, the parking lots, and the kind of the empty space on the north side of Lido Boulevard. And they came to the conclusion of, because of all the environmental regulations, it wasn't plausible to go through the empty space. It sounds absurd. Sounds absurd that it's, because then so it was easier for them to say, let's go through the people. And that's the system the state has set up.
Mr. Kramer, are you positive that congressional legislation was passed, or was it just introduced in the House?
Introduced.
It passed the House? Thank you. Okay. Right, thank you.
Do you have the bill number?
HR, I don't know.
Thank you.
All right, this gentleman.
How you guys doing? Kevin Martinson, 311 East Penn Street. Can everybody hear me? Does anybody find it ironic that we are revitalizing the marshes because of a sewer pipe that we put in 50 years ago? And here we are. We're going to industrialize our ocean and do it all over again, but in the ocean. Isn't that ironic? I just wanted to take that point and mention that point. But so I just want to ask a question. You guys determine the ground cable if it goes through Long Beach or if it doesn't, correct?
No.
Because according to...
No. The way the process works is the company, so it's Empire Wind, which is a partnership of Equinor and BP.
Right.
They apply for what their primary route they wish to take is, and then they have to list alternate routes as well, and why the alternate routes, why the primary route is preferable to the alternate routes.
Okay, because I'm looking at an article here on June 24th, 2021 from the Herald, and it says Long Beach would not be involved in the approval process, but would help determine the location of the underground cable.
No.
So that's
No.
according to
That's
according
well,
to the
I don't.
Herald.
I can't speak
Right?
to where they got that
Okay.
information.
All right, that's in
No.
an article. Now let me just ask, Mrs. Treston, are you for the cable going through Long Beach?
Waiting for the process to see where it goes.
Why are we waiting? Why aren't we seeking? Why aren't we seeking what? Why aren't we seeking more information? Right, I'm seeking information.
I attend every meeting. I'm a party.
But you don't have an opinion.
Here on the council, I have an opinion. I would be happy to give you my opinion outside, but I represent.
Ms. McGinnis, do you have an opinion on the cable going through Long Beach?
No, I don't have enough information in order to make an informed decision, so that's
How
why.
is that? How is that possible? I don't understand
because
that.
I don't.
Mrs. Posterelli,
I don't
do you have an
know.
opinion?
I don't know everything, so I am trying to find out as much information as I can, including
don't-
zoning, legal, and environmental analysis, as well as scientific evidence. So I need all that information in order to make an informed decision to represent all of the residents of Long Beach.
So if this was going through, let's say, the West End or the canals, let's say, okay, you guys would be, let's wait and see.
I would gather all the information, scientific and otherwise, to make an informed decision.
That's, I'll tell you who does have an opinion. The people who are running against you coming up, they do have an opinion.
Is that a threat?
I'm not threatening. I'm just saying. I'm giving you. I'm telling you. They put out a statement. I saw the statement. Did you see the statement? They have an opinion, and they say they don't want. They don't want this. And You know, I'm just saying, there's an election coming up.
Running for office and being an elected official are two different things.
Well-
I am an elected official that took an oath. I have to go through all this information to make sure that I take every single thing into consideration before any decisions are made.
Mrs.
That's what being an elected official
I
is.
don't know why you're yelling at me. I don't know why you're yelling. I'm not
Because
yelling
you're
at you. I'm not yelling at you, am I? Mrs. Treston, do you know what an EMF stands for? Yes. What does it stand for?
Electromagnetic fields.
All right. So you don't know what an EMF stands for? Yes. So this is a problem. This is what I'm talking about, seeking information. So EMF stands for electric magnetic field. I seeked information, and let me tell you about the information that I found out very easily, okay? Very easily. That there is a twofold increase in childhood leukemia when they are exposed to low frequency EMF. So there's 9 studies on that. 9. None of you have seen those studies? None of you sat down and went, let me see what EMF does at low frequency. Nobody. Okay. So low frequency EMF, twofold increase in childhood leukemia. So if you put that cable, and you guys agree to that cable going down Lincoln Avenue, are you going to guarantee that our children are safe?
Okay, your time's up. If you want to stay after.
That was my last
we're
question.
Happy to have a conversation with you, but.
I just want to know, is anyone going to guarantee my children are safe?
So.
Thank you for your time.
One of the things we are doing tonight, to your point, is we are bringing in experts. That's
I
what
don't think
some
we
of
have
these
to wait for them, though,
resolutions are.
Mr. Bendo.
We are bringing in experts.
I don't think you have to wait for them for an opinion.
Help us inform the decisions. We don't get our news off of Facebook.
It's not
We
Facebook.
get-
It's very.
I get that, but listen. I'm an engineer by.
I know you're a nuclear engineer. I'm well aware.
I deal in facts. That's what I deal in. So we're going to bring in the experts that are going to help us inform the decisions. And I get it. I get why people don't want this running near their streets. We all get that. And our job is not to represent our personal opinions. Our job is to represent the 35,000 people that live in the city.
Right, but
that's
if this was,
our job.
If this was running down through the West End, you wouldn't have it. I guarantee it. You wouldn't have it.
All I can tell you is our job is to represent the whole city. And that's what we are going
Right,
to
we're
do.
all together in it. Didn't you
Right.
say we were all together in this last meeting? Well, what does that mean, all together? I don't understand that.
All right, so let's continue. If you want to stick around, we'll continue the conversation at the end. All right, the gentleman in the, it's Ron. It's famous Ron. Come on up, Ron.
That'll be the day.
Evening, everybody. Ron Paganini, 62 Harmon Street. I just don't want to pay for it. I agree that, listen, we need experts. Okay, if it goes through. I don't want it to go through. It can go to hell, for all I care. But to pay for it, I don't get it. They got $1 trillion for this, basically, for all of this stuff. If we have to get people, can't we charge the state and the federal government to protect ourselves? I mean, it doesn't make sense that we have to go out of our way to really protect ourselves in this thing. They should supply us with individuals, or if we want our own individuals to check it out, let them pay. I mean, I truly believe that, but I guess it's not going to happen.
Do you really want them to supply us with the
Well, I'm
experts?
just saying, well, it would be our choice to get our own people. I'm going to say, but I have another idea. Wainscott was holding out to last for a year and a half, fighting them. It didn't want them to come through their town for a year and a half, even a little longer. They have a ton of information for you guys. They were going to come right through, off the beach, right into Wainscott. They went crazy to people, but something happened where they caved in. But I'm sure if you contacted the mayor of Waynescott and asked him what happened, what was the deal breaker or whatever.
Those are some of the experts that we hired.
From there, from Waynescott?
Yep.
All right, so they have their information then already. Okay, I mean, that was a suggestion. The barge is right off of Waynescott right now in the ocean. You know, I feel sorry for them. I really don't want it to come through the town, but we need the information. Maybe Roy could get it set up where the state would pay. I mean, that's my opinion, but listen, we need help. It's not going away right now, and hopefully the Senate will vote against it. Thank you.
Okay. And just another piece of interesting information of why we need experts is if we just dug in our heels and said no and did nothing and refused to cooperate, again, the state process allows them to go to Long
Yes.
Beach and try to take the land by eminent domain.
Well, you know what? It's wrong for them to do this. We need experts. Every town should have it, and that cost really should go to the state or trickle down or take it off the top if it does happen.
Yeah.
How's that? I'm just saying.
It's not a very fair process, clearly, but
All right.
so
Listen.
we're trying to play in their sandbox to protect our interests.
And I'm sure all your opinions are that it shouldn't come through, so I'm talking for all of you.
All right. Ms. Lake.
Yeah, I need them. Good evening, Crystal Lake, Long Beach, New York. Please allow me the additional time that the other residents also received. Please, if I need additional time, please allow me, because I would like to say that the residents of North Park have been basically collateral damage for years, and that includes myself, because of a handful of individuals that thought they were doing the right thing for the majority. 5 generations of my family has been exposed to dioxin in the 1990s, 3 times higher than EPA standards. I have a City of Long Beach stack admission test. A former manufactured gas plant, 130122, which Tetra Tech did that report, and also Equinor's, one of Equinor's report was done by Tetra Tech. Based on Tetra Tech's findings, which I disagreed with because they did not examine the entire area of the former MGP site. It was just the circumference of the 3 million gallon tank. Coal tar, the heating system, transcontinental gas pipeline, subsea, the water pollution control plant. Okay, the odor, the stench, the gray ash from the incinerators. That's what we were exposed to for the greater good for everyone else. And no one cared. It was about the almighty dollar and what was great for everyone else. Now, and I can tell you 5 generations, my aunt, uncle, and great aunt, my mother and father, myself and my siblings, my children, and my first grandchild, in addition to the horrendous flooding. So, yes, Equinor is powerful. It's like David and Goliath, who won. However, there should be a B plan in place. It all sounds great. We're disturbing and unearthing, okay, much contaminated land. I'm standing here by the grace of God, and so are my children. And that doesn't take into account ADD, ADHD, okay, lupus, many of the cancers that the residents of North Park faced and have died from. My aunt and uncle both died from cancer. My first pet, Debbie, was this beautiful, healthy chow when we came to Long Beach. She died from cancer at the animal hospital that was then on Austin Boulevard. So I'm well aware of all of the extenuating circumstances that have occurred because I've been collateral damage far too long. So thank you. However, when this project moves forward, and it's a good possibility it will. So at least, this is my email that I sent to you regarding some of the community benefits and the money that they're
Is that the one you've been sending around?
Yes.
I've been reading them.
I'm just submitting it
Yeah.
on record. The money that is being offered is highly insulting and should not be accepted because our health, future generations to come, and this what is beneficial to the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lake. All right, any more comments? All right, seeing none, let's move on to the next item.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the retention of consulting services.
So this is Nelson Pope Voorhees. This is the consultant that we have hired to go through what's called scrub all the environmental impact statements and to look at the statements, see whether or not they're in the best interest of Long Beach and whether or not we agree with them, and then move forward with whatever recommendations they may have. So that's what this is about.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Any from the public? All right, seeing none, let's move on to the next item.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 22-23 fiscal year.
So Joe McNally's going to handle this for events.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully this is something of an anticlimactic item for this evening. It's basically housekeeping for the two budgets.
I can get Roy fired up for you.
It's basically housekeeping for the two budgets that I help oversee. Number one is a move from temporary salaries to contracted salaries in publicity. Our original intention when we crafted the budget was to hire a part-timer. We hired a consultant instead. From miscellaneous to printing, also under the publicity line. Print, we have one more mailer to go out. Printing has gotten significantly more expensive over the years, so we need to move some funds around to account for it. Celebrations, temporary salaries overtime, and that's also pulling from the advertising, which is the next line. That was to cover costs associated with Fall Festival. When I started working here, or since I had started working here, this was our first Fall Festival. I didn't know that the employee salary lines fell within celebrations, not their individual budgets. So this is the workaround for that, plus the contracted services. So pretty straightforward housekeeping stuff just to make sure that the budget, it's no increased budget anywhere. It's just moving from one line to another in order to make sure that it reflects reality.
Okay.
Questions?
Any questions from the council? All right, any questions from the public? Okay, thank you. On to item 9.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 511 Long Beach Boulevard, street floor. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held April 18th at 7 p.m. Item 10 is an approval of minutes of prior meetings of March 7th, 2023 and March 21st, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay, on to the voting portion. Item 1 is an ordinance amending and restating bond ordinance adopted May 17th, 2022 in the amount of $165,759,695,000. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
To be honest, I still can't understand how the piping could have gone up so much money, you know, from 47 to 75 or 45, whatever it is. But it's such an important project. I'm going to have to vote yes on it.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes, and I'd
like to take the opportunity to again thank Denise Ford and our Lakemen and everyone that took part of this. This is a big step forward. Yes, yes, yes.
President Bendo.
This is probably one of the most important environmental projects that take place on the South Shore of Long Island for decades. Yes.
Item 3 is a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding city officers, their general powers and duties. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes, I just wanted to state that, while it's preferred that the city manager be local, willing to relocate, this really just especially since COVID, in this very competitive marketplace we're in, this really just helps us to expand our options to make sure that we can get the best person for our city. So I vote yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing retention of outside counsel. Will introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the retention of outside counsel. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing retention of outside counsel. Will introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the retention of consulting services. Will introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds for the 22-23 fiscal year. Will introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Abstain.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Excuse me. And finally, item 9 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of a public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for permits 511 Long Beach Boulevard Street floor. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
City Manager's monthly personnel report has been filed by the City Clerk. Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember McGinnis.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President Bendo.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. In the refrigerator there is. No, over there. In
Don't
the
take
little
Alan's.
fridge. There is one. I got this one.
All right. Hopefully it's not a big stack. Okay. And once again, Mr. Paganini.
Hello again, Ron Paganini, 62 Harmon Street. I just want to say, I didn't start the fire here.
Is that a pun?
Well, I didn't start it, and you guys didn't start it either. But I'm going to keep it burned until the end of the budget. So, at this point in time, with the Haberman levy, and by the way, Mr. Walsh said he's working on trying to get this thing done. let me get back to it. At this point in time, with the Haberman levy looming over the heads of the taxpayers and coming into effect at the end of this fiscal year at the cost average of $610, the average, and the present super block levies averages of like 200 a year, we, the taxpayers, are asking this administration to stay under the budget, under the New York State tax cap. Gotta get this thing over here. We feel the burden to override the New York State tax cap would be the beginning of a mass migration out of our beloved city of Long Beach. It's at this time that the unsustainable overtime that has been kicked down the road for years be addressed as soon as possible. This council ran on a promise, and I promised too with them, to fix this problem. But instead it grew out of control. There are no excuses anymore. Every town, city, village, hamlet, and our own county overcame this painful page in their history and are ever aware to control the waste, and I mean money. We want this council to keep its promise. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. Gary Fortgang? Okay, no Gary Fortgang. Crystal Lake?
Crystal Lake, good evening again, and thank you, everyone, for your time, consideration, and all efforts. It is truly appreciated. You have discussed the presentation, Mr. Walsh, regarding the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project, which will be held April 18th, 2023 at 7. And will that information also be posted online for the?
Yes, whatever presentation we give will also go online.
Okay, thank you so much for the
Absolutely.
continued updates. I'd like the status of the park upgrades. Magnolia Park is coming along quite nicely. It's beautiful, actually. I see that there is some work occurring at Leroy Conyers Park. Sherman Brown needs a great deal of TLC. It's you know. So thank you, everyone, for all of, your efforts. Mr. Fabrizio, thank you so much. Secondly, I remember when Long Beach was known as the Lion. Okay. The Lion. They were strong, they were standalone, they stood alone as one force, one entity. And it seems like so much, and I didn't agree with everything that occurred, I'm going to be quite honest. But it just seems like Long Beach is giving so much away, and all these other entities are becoming controlling components, and it, from the amusement park on the boardwalk, when I remember, and I did come from extreme comfort, even though I resided in North Park, the boardwalk, the city of Long Beach was family-oriented, extremely family-oriented. All of the shops, the mom and pop stores, the five and dime, the candy, the candy stores. Now at my age, I'll be 66 this month, so thank God. And I miss all of those things. It's becoming so commercial, and everything is extremely costly. And there is another exodus within the city of Long Beach, due to the high price of living, which unfortunately is occurring almost everywhere. So, I was just like to say I was hoping that this body, this force, control as much of the city as you can. Keep control. Too much is being given away. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Lake. All right, Mr. Kramer. Yeah, nope, you. She's next. You get the tag team.
Hi, Tim Kramer, 361 East Broadway. So last month, we were talking about the Haberman 75 million, and somebody yelled out from the crowd, how much is it going to be? And somebody on the panel had mentioned that it's only going to be $600 or thereabouts per year, over 30 years. And it really struck me as, inappropriate to have that type of comment, because you got families out here that they're being choked. They're being choked with inflation, with taxes, with the whole 9 yards. And to make a comment like that was very inappropriate. And the other thing I want to mention is that this settlement was negotiated, and it was negotiated for no cost to the city. So we went from 0 to 75 million, and that's a real, that's a bad deal. It was settled for nothing, like 10, 12 years ago, for nothing, 0.
No.
No, that's a fact.
No, that's different case.
You're thinking of a different case.
No, I'm not.
The iStar case.
No, I'm not.
You're thinking of the iStar case.
Nope. That's a fact. Roughly 12 years ago, this was settled for nothing, and I have to ask: Did anybody sit down with this guy? Did anybody on the panel sit down with this guy and try and have a coming of the mind, saying like you're going to destroy a community? Did you try and reach him at that kind of level?
That's how we got him we owed him 152 million. That's how we got him down to 75, by basically saying you can't destroy the community.
Well, go to 0.
So we actually
0 to
got
75
him
million.
to take half off of what we
that's a
owed.
bad
I don't know
deal
where
on
you got
anyone's-
the zero from. I don't know where that came from. There was it was a default lawsuit. The city failed to respond 15 years ago.
Ron, originally there was a deal to build 2 19-and-a-half-story towers.
Oh, you're talking about the towers?
And that would have cost us nothing. But
Correct.
we would have had skyscrapers.
Meanwhile, but hold on. Meanwhile, we're going 75 million. He's going to do it anyway. So guess who's paying for the buildings?
Listen, Tim.
These people out
you're
here.
talking to the wrong guy.
to the choir.
No, look, I'm not.
You know
I'm
that,
not,
right?
I'm
Yeah.
here to just bring light to the fact that not everyone in Long Beach. In fact, I'd argue to say that virtually nobody in Long Beach knows that it was settled for nothing, and now we went to 75 million.
Right? It was a proposed.
No, that's a fact.
You would have to ask
That's
the
a
people
fact.
that were in office at that time.
Yeah.
What's that?
You would have to ask the people that were
Yeah,
in office at that time. why
Look,
they
I'm
didn't
not
do it.
saying that.
Listen, we agree with you. This sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Absolutely
This
terrible.
sucks.
I mean, how do we go
And-
from
and-
0 to 75 million? I mean, that
You
I
should
could
ask
roll
the
out a better
people who
than
were
Rachel
in
Hangover
office.
and do a better deal than that.
Yeah.
This all started back in 1989 when somebody made some dumbass decision. And
Tim, if somebody grabs your credit card and racks up $100,000 and it's a family member, you owe $100,000, you better pay it, right? It's basically what it is.
Ms. Kramer.
Hi, Christina Kramer, 361 East Broadway. So Tim's talking about what happened apparently before your administration. 2016, sorry, I'm never going to get off of this. We started with this Equinor. You know, the reason why I got involved with this was because I got a letter from Equinor that says, I'm going to be running these high voltage wires right in front of your house and then on the side of your house so I can zap you twice. And that's why I started looking into it. I went to a meeting at Island Park where they actually had a meeting and let the citizens know what was going on with the Equinor. And then I crawled into the rabbit hole and learned all this other information because I didn't want my kids to suffer any sicknesses, leukemias, cancers, everything that is associated. And then when I crawled into that rabbit hole, I learned so much more about the whales and the echolocation and the ocean and the not being green. And people, especially you, Tina, you're an environmentalist. I don't understand why you're all not crawling in the rabbit hole with me, trying to find out what's wrong, trying to find out what we can do to fight, trying to find out what the best way forward is for this community, for these people, as Ms. Martinson said. We are not lab rats. We don't want to be guinea pigs. We love our ocean, we love our creatures, and we want to keep them safe and our view. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lawrence Edoduigi? I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
It's fine, thanks.
I should know better. I've been to South Africa many times.
Not South Africa, so I'm from Nigeria originally.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for allowing me to say a few words. I just wanted to have the president, if you could have us for a moment of silence, because today is the marking of 55 years when Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Oh. I didn't know that. Okay. So, yes, certainly. So why don't we take a moment of silence in remembrance of Dr. King.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Lawrence Egodigwe. I'm a vice chair of the board of directors of Martin Luther King Center. And I'm coming here because of today, what today is marked. And it so happened that the city council is sitting on the same day. And as a Catholic, this is our Holy Week, the holiest of the holies of our week in Catholic religion. So I'm just looking at the coincidences that is happening for me today and this week. So I came here today to ask you, because the city of Long Beach has sued Martin Luther King Center for a lease. And I listened to everything people were saying about what is happening in the city, what have you, and the history, and what people miss, and what have you. But the thing that keep on touching me, listening to other people, is just the love that they have for the city. And I extend that love for the children of North Park area of this city. That the city of Long Beach is taking the center that's supposed to belong to them, trying to force them into a one room. I know it's in litigation, but I'm here today to ask the city council, you have the power to withdraw that case, to ask your council, let's go and negotiate inside with these people. More especially, looking at today, was 55 years Martin Luther was assassinated. That center bears his name. Why? Because he came to this city. So I ask you today to ask the city manager to sit down and let us negotiate with our council and see what could be worked out, because it doesn't make sense. That building, I know that the city got money from the Fed, and therefore we also ask if we could get through the Freedom of Information Act, the original resolution that the city had for that building to be Martin Luther King Center. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So for the Freedom of Information, our clerk might be able to help you to find that,
Yes.
if they have those records.
The first original resolution,
Yeah.
so that we could know what is behind it. Because each year, they keep on asking for lease. And the last lease we had, I think it was in I can't remember which year. James, do you remember which year? 96. That was the last lease. So I beg you, just remember those children. That's why I'm here today, because of those children and the elderly that use that area. I only knew this place because of Katrina. I came here for volunteer in that place for 6 months with my children. All of them are graduates now. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hodge. And while you're coming up, James, I owe you an apology again. I thought your time was up and it was not, so I am sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the apology. Let me say, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moment of convenience and comfort, but where he stands in a time of challenging controversy. I will take a few seconds of my time. That was the words of Martin Luther King. I looked on the city's website and I looked all around, because as I think about how great history is, not just a month for Black history, but everyone's history is important. I couldn't see nothing on the city side or nothing in this city council meeting, which I was going to stand up and say that on this day, a great man that was 39 years old, and that got assassinated when he went over to fight on behalf of the sanitation workers in that freak accident that happened because of the conditions of those sanitation workers and how those sanitation workers got killed in the sanitation truck because they weren't allowed inside with the other workers, so they tried to stay warm in the back of the sanitation truck and got crushed. And so I started speaking about the sanitation accident over 20 years here at this city council meeting, as I've continued to always speak up for sanitation workers, even here in the city of Long Beach, having to inhale all kinds of sanitation and doing what we should be able to do when they didn't even have uniforms, didn't have rain jackets or rain suits. So that's something that I've been speaking of. But this city should always remember this day and not just mourn it, but celebrate what he means to all of us, because he fought for all of us. And also, I would just like to say that, as Lawrence was saying, there's so much, like we said, that there's major consultants and law firms, even with the negotiation of what's going on with the center. That's a center that started its history in 1968, around 1968. It goes back to there right after the assassination. The first founder of the center, the pioneer, was Mr. Grayton. And I think you guys should do a lot of history and to get understanding. You have great people that was a part of the beginning, like Mrs. Odom and so many others that would probably love to come and negotiate without all of these expensive attorneys. I happen to be a former chair for many years of the Martin Luther King Center, and I still love the center. But if this city loved the center so much, you don't have to. We live here in Long Beach, and that organization is here in Long Beach. You don't have to get such expensive attorneys to cost the taxpayers money. So I'll just say this, that in this Holy Week, let us continue to pray for our city. Jesus, who was an awesome man, who came to die on the cross that we may have an opportunity to everlasting life, died in his 30s too. Let us continue to pray for everyone in our city, whether they believe or not. I thank God for each and every one of you, and I'll continue praying for you and the whole city.
Thank you, James. All right, Joseph Lustberg.
Hi, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joseph Lustberg, East Walnut Street. I've grown up in Long Beach during the summers and as a child and moved here in 2009. My brother, sister, and I have called Long Beach home our entire lives. And my parents even lived in the West End in their 20s and got married here. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, a father, a financial writer, and a medical cannabis patient here in New York. I've been featured in Forbes magazine, Channel 4 News, Yahoo Finance, Benzinga, MJ BizCon, and the Long Island Patch, and soon to be AM New York and Politics NY as New York's most influential cannabis power players in the cannabis industry. My brother and I just received some of the best news that we've ever gotten. We were awarded a recreational cannabis card license on Long Island through the New York Card Program. I am the CFO of Mott's and our soon-to-be cannabis dispensary on Long Island. After doing some research on Long Beach, I saw that the city of Long Beach has opted out for a recreational cannabis dispensary. Started looking more online, I found an article from MJ BizCon, which is one of the largest cannabis publications in the country. They stated in that article that Long Beach did not allow a cannabis dispensary to open in the municipality, and that it was a very, very big missed opportunity. I'm a Long Beach resident. Currently in New York, it is legal to possess up to 3 ounces of cannabis, and cannabis has been decriminalized. Smoke shops that sell cigarette products are now also selling weed illegally, and this is happening in our community, in the West End, in the East End, in all the smoke shops. We have to make sure that cannabis consumption for our consumers is tested and the products are safe. Now let me tell you a little bit about our cannabis dispensary that we plan to open up, and it would be amazing if we could open up in the city of Long Beach. So our goal is to employ 25 to 40 employees, including delivery drivers. 60% of our staff will be minorities and disabled employees. Education about the medical benefits of cannabis and sustainability will be our top priority. We will be involved in the community and educate patients and our customers. Cannabis is no longer just for teenagers. It's a fully regulated big business, and our city has a big opportunity to get some tax revenue from this. My grandmother, God rest her soul, in her 80s, she had to take fentanyl and use fentanyl patches. So my uncle decided to fly over from California, THC patches and gummies for my grandmother. We brought her to the doctor, and the doctor looked at us and said, "What have you been doing? She's gained 15 pounds." We were giving her gummies and giving her THC patches. It extended her life for more than 5 years. I'm a medical cannabis patient myself. I know the benefits of it. I'm asking you to reconsider opting in for the recreational cannabis and allow a Long Beach resident to run a profitable business here and turn it into something special for our town. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kevin Martinson.
Hi, guys. Pretty much said almost everything I want to say, but I guess referring to the wind farms out there, does anybody know what kind of turbines they're going to be using out there?
Vestas, 15
Vestas.
megawatt turbines.
Which ones?
Vestas 15 megawatt turbines.
So those are the 263s. Do you know how much sound that puts out?
I don't personally know.
I could tell you. It's 118 decibels. 118 decibels. The human ear starts having problems at 104 decibels. That's at the site. So we're all familiar, because we live in Long Beach, about how hard our onshore winds are, and that's why they're putting those winds out there. They're pretty hard. So at 118 decibels with a hard south wind, I would probably assume we're probably going to hear those 15 miles out, especially over water. In fact, there's been some acoustic studies. Do we plan on doing any acoustic studies for this?
You're asking if the city is?
Yes, or, you know, we're bringing in these...
That's why
Is there
we just
acoustic-
voted to bring in an environmental company to
Right.
hopefully tell us what we need to do.
Is there an acoustic company coming in to do anything with it?
Well, we're just starting out.
But so there's no plans yet for an acoustic company?
Well, we're kind of at the point yet we don't know what we don't know yet. That's
Okay.
why we're bringing in an environmental company.
Right. So I think there's a lot of stuff, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we can find out by searching, but, and seeking, instead of waiting for these guys to tell us, because this is a big corporation. They're not going to sit there and tell us, oh, you know, this, that, and the other thing. We have to kind of find our own information, don't we? Don't you think?
That's why we're getting experts.
Okay. No, I mean, there's also other ways to do it. Some of these experts, like the man that was up here before said, the guys that, the East Hampton, you guys hired the people that did the East Hampton, right? And they went ahead and did these wind farms. That doesn't make me feel comfortable at all, because I don't want them and I don't want a wire running through my house. I mean, really, the big thing here is I don't want that cable running through my neighborhood. And that's a big deal to me. And I think it would be a big deal for anybody if it was running through your neighborhood as well. So the acoustic study was done at Long Beach Island, and they came up with that the acoustics, when it hit the shoreline over there, would be 50 decibels. So 50 decibels would be equal to aircraft going over our head, and we hear those all the time over here, and you can actually, you hear how loud they are. So on a hard onshore day, we might have some really high sounds coming from these wind turbines. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for the information.
Kevin? Yeah. If you don't mind, if you could send me an email with your information.
Sure.
etreston@longbeachny.gov.
Sure. Are you going to tell me you're against the cable?
I'm looking for your information.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Let's have a conversation.
Okay, I like to have a conversation, but I have one-track mind here. I don't want that cable going through my neighborhood. I'm trying to protect my home. Any one of you would do the same.
Absolutely. Nora Egan, who I saw walk out the door. And John Brown.
This is the last one.
Hello. So I'm a recent homeowner here. It was my first purchase was Long Beach. I love it down here.
Welcome.
But my question down here is, when I walk around the boardwalk and take my bike around too, you go down Washington and West Broadway, abandoned school, like on this beautiful boardwalk. So I went through the tax roll. I saw that it's owned by someone that lives on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I think they're scheduled to pay around $330,000 this year in property tax. So I assume it's privately owned by, I guess, a developer who's willing to pay that much?
It's owned by a developer called Wittick.
Okay. Has the city done anything to maybe incentivize, and I'm not a fan of pilot programs, I think that's a scam, but is there anything else we can do to kind of incentivize what, the highest and best use
That's
of that
actually
land?
in zoning right now. It's
Yeah.
in zoning, they're looking for a variance, they're trying to come up with plans to put a building there.
Okay. And then second, like I'm on West Broadway in between Magnolia and Laurelton. So Laurelton, West Broadway, you have assisted living nursing home there. I looked up, it's basically, of all the buildings on that boardwalk, it's probably the biggest blight of something that's actually occupied right now. That building is scheduled to pay, I think it was about $320,000 this year in property tax. I looked up their next door neighbors, all in, that I think it's the Meridian, all in they pay about $1.3 million in property tax. So I mean, the city's missing out on $1 million in real estate property tax. I mean, obviously, you guys can look into it yourselves. I just did a Control F. Okay, I mean.
It's also an assessed value, it has to do with, the years of being built and things like that. It's not It's not the same value as the Meridian next door.
Are they a commercial business?
Is there something that the city can say,
It's also
well, no charge? a
It's
fee to be
nonprofit, and
operating
it's
there?
also not on the homestead, it's on commercial.
Yeah, it's
Non-homestead.
it's a little
Is it
different.
homestead?
It's called what's,
I don't think so.
our assessor isn't here, but it's called a non-homestead property, and so it's not unlike our houses, which are, this is the size of your house and your piece of land, that it's based on their revenues and expenses. It's a different process.
Yep.
So, some pay more, some pay, in this case,
Significantly
less.
less. Okay.
But it's the tax system.
And they go through, our tax assessor's office goes through and reassesses frequently, checks the assessed values. He's very astute on trying to ensure that we are at the proper assessed values, so that things that happen where properties that go unassessed for many, many, many years aren't paying their fair share. So we're pretty on top of that one. It's one of the things I looked at to try and bring in more revenue.
Yeah, just like thinking out of the box, I guess.
But they're great questions, so keep on coming to meetings and asking
that's very
questions,
good.
please.
I'm on the YouTube. I'm usually on the train on the way back from work, so I listen.
Please, thank you.
All right. Well, that's it, everyone, folks. Thanks for coming. Have a very happy Easter. Happy Passover. Happy Passover, yes.
Joe Brand, you have to stay for 45 more minutes, I'm sorry. So.